Sharks, always coming in and stomping on my opening. I think you are. You said you think you're a supporter of the channel or something? Huh? Is that what you think you are? I have questions about your dedication to the channel. How much you interrupt all my stuff. Nah, it's okay. How's it going, everybody? Sorry, my music's a bit loud. I say again, how is everybody doing? I'm making a few adjustments to things. Okay, that should do it. Seriously? I mean, really. I kid you not, I just tested every single one of these, and not one of them did this. I don't understand what's going on with this system. I remapped everything. I mean, everything. I deleted all of the hotkeys. I reset the interface. I replayed them all in, and every single one worked perfectly. On Saturday, on Sunday, when Fridays when I did it, so that I tested them. I started the software up and tested it on multiple days. Worked perfectly every single time. The instant I go live, I don't understand why this software is so bugged like this. And I know there's an update for it. I do know there's a new version, but I haven't seen anything in any of the information saying that it. I mean, right now, every single hotkey. Well, let me test this. Just give me a second. I'm going to test. Yep. Every single hotkey. Every single one is. That's the only one. Okay, so I'm going to start muting. Okay. It doesn't matter. They are all triggering it. Whatever it's on, the scene changes are all triggering it. So give me a second. I'm just gonna have to lose my cough switch. Well, I don't know. The cough switch might actually work. Give me a second. I'm gonna remove that hotkey entirely. And have to tell the guy whose interface it is that yet again, we haven't fixed the problem. It's just annoying. All of these fixes should fix this problem. Okay, let's test this. Yay, my stuff isn't going away when I click on other things. Ugh. So annoying. Well, hello everybody, welcome to yet another stream where nothing's working when I start. I'm hoping that I've done nothing else. At this point, the only thing that I have on this interface is scene changes, microphones. Let's see if the cough switch works. Am I talking? Yeah, see, even the cough switch isn't really working. It's not. Let me go in and see if I can fix that. In the meantime, let's bring Jealous Mike in. Say hello, Jealous Mike.
Hello, Jealous Mike.
Alright, I gotta adjust your volumes again.
Okay.
No, it's because when we talk off stream and I'm working on things, I turn you down so you're not overwhelming other things.
Oh.
It's like when I watched you play WoW that one day. Although right now I've got your user volume set to almost 200% inside OBS, inside Discord, and Discord is at. Guys, talk again?
Hello, is this any better?
I don't know. Did you change anything on your end?
No, I didn't change anything. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just had to turn Discord way up. I just want things to work. I don't want it to always be a struggle. And I want things I want things to continue to work, 10 minutes after I've tested them all. Give me 1 second. Okay, so that's weird. Okay. Let's see what happens now. Okay, so this is Yep, that did seem to work. Now, here we go. I'm going to change the scene.
Alright.
Well, for one thing, those keys were reversed. And I don't know why they were reversed. Because again, this is the 4th day in a row that I tested them before I did anything on stream. And they worked every single time. How are you, Jealous Mike?
I'm good. I'm irritated that the command I'm trying to use to replace all the grass blocks with black concrete isn't recognizing negative values because it expects an integer.
Mm-hmm.
But the coordinate system in game isn't just integers, it's negative and decimal values. So I'm trying to figure out what in the world it's trying, what value it's trying to get from me.
Yeah. Just reducing the game volume so it's not overwhelming you.
Okay.
So. Alright, I suppose I should actually join the realm.
Oh, I thought you were already in. That's the only reason why I came in.
No, I didn't, because I was doing so many things, it would have just disconnected me.
Oh. Oh, let's switch telling me you're here.
What? Sorry, I was trying to eat my lunch before I got started, but then all these OBS crashing and everything stopped me.
You're good.
No, I don't like eating on stream, but I'm hungry.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. Whatever command I have that turns off the previous scene makes my character in Minecraft move down. Which is really odd because I don't know of a key in here. I'm curious now. What hotkey is that? Let me see. see if I can duplicate it, because if that's true and I can do that, I may change that hotkey. Yes. Oh, hang on. No, you can still hear me. Shift, yeah, but it was only the one. Shift H. The shift brings me down. Okay, so let's see if it triggers a scene change. No, it doesn't. Good. Okay, that's handy, so I don't have to do the stupid double space. Well, as I've said before, what would a stream be without technical problems? All too easy is what it would be. We can't have things being easy now, can we? I am adjusting. No, I don't. I want 400%. Move over here. I can see the numbers. Okay, so we're going this way. Going back up that way. Okay. Now I'm just going to figure out where I am. So, I'm sorry, you were talking about the grass down there. What was going on with it?
No, I'm trying to figure out a command to replace all the grass blocks with black concrete, but
Short of doing it manually, it's not making it easy on you.
well, from what I can find online, it wants the coordinates, but the coordinates in the area that we're at are in the negatives, and the fill command that is supposed to be used is it wants integers and won't accept negative values. Yeah. So I just don't know.
Okay, that's right. Go back. Why do I even have a terracotta? Oh, the stupid phaser array. Well, that makes that easier. Oh, I should have looked that up before. I should have assumed there was a hotkey for that, to just go up and down instead of using the double space.
Yeah.
So let's start off with Let's start off easy, because I'm not ready to jump into the topic I picked for today.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you've looked at it yet.
I have not yet.
I'll introduce it in a moment. Let's just start off easy. How was your weekend?
I don't know. I've been really just blah. Just very badly.
I get that feeling. It's okay. You're allowed to feel that.
Yeah. Yep.
There's nothing in the rule book that says that you have to feel up. You have to feel a specific way on a specific day, or feel a specific way because you're doing such and such in therapy, or you're taking the right medicine.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you. Someone clearly waited a long time for that one. Sorry, I have a host.
Oh,
it's Zoe's account. Yes, Jen, I know. I need to fix that one. That one is a bit loud. It's on the Streamlabs side. I have to do that on the site, so I need to adjust that one.
Is it me that's too loud?
No, it was the alert.
Oh,
the alert that went off.
Stinks.
So, well, no, here. That's one thing. Now, let me switch over to Talk Show for now.
Okay.
And I don't understand what is everything. There we go. So I'm just gonna leave up my project on the page right there. Now I'm gonna go make a change, and yeah, well, no, you're right. It is, which is why you can't ever you can't ever slack on it when you're working sound, and it's got a mind of its own. And then particularly with all the stuff that I've got going on this computer, with all my job and then the streaming, and then what I do when I'm not doing either of those, but I'm just working. Well, yeah. See, I had to turn him. Charles, Mike, can you say something?
Can you hear me okay now?
Try it again.
I'm here. This
okay.
is... Yep.
Yeah, okay, I'm trying to make it so that you're just peeking into the yellow. So let's see if that works. Or
Okay, yeah, as long as we're both in the same.
I'm slightly higher than you, but that's just because I project a little more.
That's fine.
My throat is feeling a little weird today, so I'm not sure how it's going to sound to everybody.
Okay.
Let's bring this over here so that I can... No, don't mess with that. All right, let's go into alerts so that I can fix them real quick. Okay. Hosting. No. Stop. I didn't ask you. That is not what I asked you to do. Sorry. Well, we know it works. There's that. Okay, here we go. I'm already down at 1%. There is nothing lower. That is literally the lowest I can go. The next step down is too quiet. Is so quiet that you can't hear it. So it's going through. So the only way I can control that volume is to turn all of my sound down. Yeah, that's the absolute lowest it can go. It's okay. I need to just change them all. I'm getting all. I do like. I worked really hard on that one to get that timing just right, so that when it does because it replays the clip twice, and there's a specific part that where the words are supposed to appear, and I worked really hard on that one, but that was before I decided. I made that 1.5 years ago, so I need to change them all to be something that's a little less obnoxious, if you know what I mean. Yeah, there is absolutely nothing I can do inside Streamlabs to fix that. So, yep, you're right. That is bad. Okay, so that's blah. Really? I don't understand why that one came on. I didn't tap anything to trigger it. This is the problem. The I don't know how to say it, but the glitches in the interface are not reproducible every single time. They change. Now when they change, I can, like, I had the talk show on. I tapped it, that scene to go back to the game one, which was the one that was behind me. Well, for some reason, it triggered the Be Right Back one. And I'm not really sure why. Be Right Back, it should have been above. So it, for some reason, when I clicked the scene to go off, it changed. It turned one on that wasn't supposed to be on, and now I can't get it to do it. It's between me and the guy. So the two things that are going on is I've got Streamlabs. No, not Streamlabs. I just have OBS over here, and then I have Stream Puppy right here on my iPad, and it's just a button interface. It doesn't mess with any of that. It's like the Elgato Stream Deck. It's exactly the same thing. It's just a virtual version of it. And I apparently am the only one of all of the people using Stream Puppy that's having this problem. And it's so frustrating because I cannot figure out what is happening because I can't reproduce the problems. I did a video for him about 2 weeks ago and sent it to him. And I was sitting there just showing him, okay, see, I'm just going to push buttons. I'm going to do things. And this was offline. This was after I'd streamed. And every time I pushed a button, something that wasn't supposed to happen happened. And it wasn't predictable. When I went back to it, then a different thing would go wrong. And I don't know what's going on. And this is now 2 different streaming software that I'm having this problem in. And from what I can tell from looking in their Discord channel, I am quite literally the only one having this problem. And I don't know. I've completely flushed Stream Puppy, reset it all. This on Friday I just did. I made everything go back. And why did this get moved? Well, Yes, it is. Because it's the dev InstaFluff, he doesn't know how to help me because he can't. It's not happening to anybody else.
Mm.
And it's not the same thing. And I tried going into the OBS Discord and asking for help, and not one person even bothered to answer. It's like they completely ignored it. I mean, I understand when like a flaw appears in a piece of software, but it's I get that happens. But to have them constantly change, the only commonality is that the hotkeys are not going to work. They will trigger the wrong hotkey. And they only start doing this after I go live. So I don't understand what the issue is. It's just like I have enough other frustrations in my life. I don't need this one. And it's one that I can't fix. Anyway, so you were telling me about your weekend. You felt kind of blah.
Yeah, just unmotivated for anything. I did force myself to shower and go outside. You know, again, it's not about wanting to. No motivation to do so. Just, I know I have to. So I do it.
Well, I'm finding that going and taking a shower is a great way to hide from the stressors of everybody else in the house. So I've started going in there just because I know they'll leave me alone. Because especially my wife, she hates being talked to when she's in the shower, so she won't do it. She won't come in and do it because she just absolutely hates it when someone does that. So she's not going to do it. And obviously the kid isn't going to come in there.
Yeah.
And normally, Jen, I just kind of zone when I'm in the shower. I'll get all the important stuff done, and then I'll just kind of, I'm paying for the water. If I want to take a 7-minute shower as opposed to a 4-minute shower, who's gonna? It's like whatever. I know that other people take much. Yeah, 7 minutes exactly. She's like 7 minutes. That's a short shower. Oh, but right now what I do actually is I will take my iPad in and hook it on the towel bar on the other side, and I'm watching games while I...
Oh, that's smart.
It's the only way. If I don't, I'm not going to get through them all.
Yeah.
The one nice thing about working from home is I no longer have coworkers who, try as they might, cannot help but spoil things, because nobody knows how to talk around... Nobody really knows how to talk about sports and not spoil things.
Hmm.
They just can't. So, I mean, and I would ask them just to give me, like, okay, you guys are going to talk? Just give me a heads up. I'll go take a break, and then you guys can talk all what you want to talk. And in Germany, I kind of got them trained to that point.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of got it, but there were still those few who just... They would think they were being coy about it, but I know enough to know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So you knew
okay,
exactly
two corrections. Two corrections to that statement, Jen. They were all Americans, and we weren't talking about soccer. And if it was World Cup that we were talking about, I wouldn't have to worry about anybody messing up. No, we were talking about American football. We're Americans. We don't talk about the rest of the world's football unless it's the World Cup.
Oh, I just don't talk about sports.
I don't honestly. I don't either. I don't like consuming it with other people. I don't. No, it's fine. I will call football, and I will say, most of the audience that I have here is American. So if I say football to them, they're not really gonna know the difference. I have to say I'm talking about soccer for them to get it. But if I'm talking about soccer, it's usually, for me, it's World Cup or Olympics. I don't care about it any other time. For me, it's a corrupt sport. It's more corrupt than any sport in history. professional soccer is what I'm referring to. Yeah, but they would always, if I was around Germans, they would always talk about it in German. Problem solved. And they really would only talk about Bundesliga. They wouldn't talk about anything else. Maybe the UEFA Cup, but they wouldn't talk about anything else. So, and I was not dumb enough to try to not stay up to date with the World Cup when Germany was playing in it and winning. I very much stayed on top of that one. 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. So, Cellist Mike, are you gonna? So this is your first chance on stream since the interview. Would you like to tell everybody about how your interview went?
Sure. So the interview was great. Sorry, I am really out of it today.
Yeah, I know. You just woke up.
Extension of the weekend. Well, it's not just that. Just my brain has been.
Your brain?
My brain has been my brain, yeah. And it's been in the kind of place where it's just, I can't think straight.
Mm-hmm.
So. Okay. Let me stop anything else that I'm doing.
Guess let's do single task.
I cannot multitask at all, let alone do something and think. Okay. So the interview was really good. I have a fairly good ability to make my resume look shiny without lying.
That's a skill in and of itself.
It is. It is so much so, yeah.
Well, writing EPRs.
Exactly, that's where it came from. Is writing performance evaluations for other people.
Yeah, you want a crash course in writing resumes, that are going to get everybody's attention. Learn how to write an EPR, because that is nothing but how can you make people sound amazing in one short sentence that is clearly stretching the truth.
Oh yeah. Now I refuse to do that on EPRs. The EPRs are the performance evaluations for enlisted people in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm. And, OPRs are the ones for officers.
Yeah. And so when I was writing those for people under me, it would be, I refuse to stretch the truth beyond maybe like reasonable. I would make things, I would shine things in the best possible, in the best realistic perspective, but you would have to kind of glance at it from a particular angle to see it that way. But I refuse to stretch the truth so much that it was really just lying. And I'm even more restrictive to myself on my
I mean, the thing is,
resumes.
It was never lying. It was just that some people would really. I've complained about this before. The people who will take credit for work that they didn't actually do just because they were on your flight at the time you did it. OPRs are really bad about that.
Well, and that kind of comes down to what the officer's jobs are, though. Because if you're in a position of if your job is to manage the people under you, then their accomplishments are a direct reflection on your leadership in the perspective of the Air Force. Because that's their job, is to mentor you, to lead you. And so if you do something outstanding, they automatically get credit for it.
Yeah, which is a load of crap. They actually didn't do anything but put me in. The issue that I have was that they put me in the position, and that was the extent of the decision. So there's an award I have sitting up there, and it's one of the few awards that I earned for work, because honestly most of the people didn't understand what I was doing to wrap their brains around it to be able to properly write for it.
Mm-hmm.
And on that award write-up, they put every single person that was assigned to my particular shop, which was NTI, National Tactical Integration. It's basically a fancy way of saying it's my job to make sure that our stuff is provided to everybody else and everybody else's stuff is provided back to us. That's pretty much what we were doing. And on the award, they put everybody who was in the office, assigned to that office, that function, on the award. They were kind enough to at least put the officer, the flight commander, who was no longer the flight commander, but was when I started the whole thing, on there. But they forgot that she wasn't the one that actually assigned me to that office. It was the person before her. But he was gone from the unit. It still doesn't mean he shouldn't have been on there, because it would have applied to. It still could have applied to an OPR.
No. The way I look at it.
Hold on. Try that again. You're breaking up. Try that again. You're breaking up.
It's okay. I may have to restart Discord. Tell me if it continues like that.
Yeah, you're good for now.
Okay. The way I look at it is, if an accomplishment is done, something is achieved or done by somebody lower in the food chain, the people above them in the food chain should only get credit for it if the idea was theirs, or they played a direct role in like mentorship, or like if the person underneath them came to them for advice or guidance or something like that. But if it was just somebody else came up with the idea, somebody else did it, and they weren't part of any level, then they shouldn't get credit for it.
Yeah, and you know what project I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Nope, none of them did.
No.
And the second officer that was put on there, who was the current flight commander, she couldn't have told you in any way, shape, or form what we were doing. She had no ability to grasp what we were doing. It was voodoo magic to her, which is why eventually they took me off of it, because someone else came along with some other voodoo magic that looked fancier but actually was a less capable version of what I had done, and they went with that because it was the new shiny, even though it was essentially broken from the start. And when I tried to help them fix it, they wouldn't listen to me because it was their thing, and theirs was better because it was their thing. And within 3 months, the customers that I'd been serving had all just stopped asking for help anymore because we weren't providing it. And I told them, I didn't pretend. I told them, the reason you don't have that information anymore is because the leadership in our squadron made the decision to go with something that doesn't work. So if the customer was going to complain, they could complain and hit them hard with the actual accurate information.
Yeah.
So, but that officer, the one who decided to go with the new shiny, she was on that team award. She had barely been the flight commander for a couple of weeks, and the other officer, who I would say, if anything, had a little bit more credit because she helped. I think in some ways she helped make sure that it was being heard.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, hold on, Jim, we'll get there. I will allow that because she made sure that I had what I needed and that people were listening. So I got that. And hers I had no issue with, but leaving the other guy off and then adding all the people in my shop, this is part of the reason, Jen, why I eventually left, because things like this were just absolutely driving me insane. And it was stupid politics. Stupid politics like that.
In any large organization. Usually the smaller the organization, the more personalized everything becomes.
Well, we weren't a very large organization.
The Air Force is a large organization. Though.
Yeah, I get that, but the unit we were a part of was small. So anyway, you did your interview. You stopped talking at your resume. So how'd the interview go?
So the resume looks good. It clearly displays that I wouldn't be a stranger to it, that I would have some idea of what I was doing.
Yes.
And they didn't directly offer me the job because there was supposed to be a week of interviews.
Yeah.
And they, regardless of if they feel like they've found the right person, they'll still, to be fair, do that.
Yeah.
And So then there's a more experience required position with the company that is actually available right now if you want to throw your resume in or call them about it.
Who, me?
But a more experienced position with the company.
I'm having a hard enough time with the 100 pages a week. I don't think I want to try to push myself to 150.
Yeah.
But with all the projects I have going on.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't have as much. I don't have anything that I'm doing otherwise, so I can handle the more work. But they have this position. It pays a little bit more, but not really very much.
Like 5 cents per page, I think. Initially. I'm sure it goes up from there.
Yeah, but job fell through when the company went bankrupt. Being a manager is not my job. Yeah, that irritates me. If there's enough responsibilities of managerial positions that if you're not being compensated for it, there's no reason to do it. You know, it's, you expect me to put in extra hours, will pay me more. You expect me to deal with all the problems, will pay me for. Nice. Well, I'm sorry that it's messing you up. But so they called me 2 days later and said, hey, we really like, your resume. It looks like, you could do this more legally stressful, more implication, more legal implication, slightly better pay, more experienced stuff. If you're interested in doing it, we have a position opening up and you can do that instead. So I said I would do that. So not only was it you have the job, but we're going to wait till Monday to tell you have the job. It was, hey, we want to pay you more to do something different.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. It's like, you expect me to say no?
Yeah, Jen, I get right there. I have yet to really honestly find. No, I know some things that I could do that I would enjoy, but it's very hard to get paid to do them. Although I say that, and part of what I was doing today, which is why I wanted to start off with you talking about your job thing. So I think before we go any farther, we should all say congratulations. Yeah, it is. Chalice Mike usually does something about it, but before I have to say anything.
But I'm focused on doing something else.
Yep.
I'll do that in a second.
I'll go down and fix it. I'm right over top of it. And now I have the new thing. So, but yeah, so for me, it's his world. I'm sure he knows he could do that. I always forget which, is it left or right? I don't want to break your thing.
Which signs?
No, which click? Is it right or left?
I don't remember. If
Left
you do
worked.
break it, you just put another button on it.
Left worked. Alright, so there. Green's gone. So yeah. Congratulations to you. Good job. It was a big accomplishment.
Thank you.
So today, or yesterday, I decided that I was going to take a step.
Oh, what did you do?
Well, as you know, going to Dragon Con now is a lot more complicated. And if I do go, I'm not going to be doing the same thing as I did before, because I wanted to try something different. But doing technical operations is I love it so much. I love working on sound and lighting and all that stuff. And, the production side of any show. I've always loved that. But I don't have any kind of formal training in it, so I would have to go to some kind of school to start doing it. Paid wise. But it's also more complicated because of the whole crowds thing and noise. I have things that can help me manage the noise, but the randomness of crowds can really, really still get to me. So I've been intentionally pushing myself to not avoid the most crowded places that I go. I get it. After I came back from yesterday, I intentionally planted myself in the busiest thoroughfare at our church so my dog could practice. Yeah, you told us. where the police had to get you through. So I was practicing with having Groot practice. He's having some issues with picking where he wants to sit. So if I want him to sit and cover to my right, I'll position him on that side and tell him to sit, and he will intentionally step forward and turn the other direction and then sit, and so that he's looking up at me. And that's the problem. He now wants to sit in all times, doesn't matter where he is, either looking at me or looking at something that I don't want him to look at. So I'm having to retrain him on this. So I planted myself against the wall, so all the crowds had to walk in front of me. And because I couldn't watch both ways at once, I positioned him on the right, and I got him to lay down. I had to actually move his body into the position so he got it. And then every time I gave him a treat for not reacting or just staying or looking to me instead of, if someone came closer, instead of looking to them, I would lean down and I would make sure I gave him the treat from that side, so that he was always keeping his head that direction instead of turning. Because if I tried to give it to him from the front or from the left, he would just move. So I'd say, I'm setting him up for failure. I need to give it to him so that he can succeed. And he did it. I only had to reposition him once. But when I came home, Jen, I don't know why it was only this, but one side of my armpits was soaked completely through, and the other side wasn't. And
wow.
I really don't know why it did that, but it was I know, and I didn't notice it until later when I realized, because I was in the AC, and like, why is my right armpit cold? I looked down, and it's two shirts. So it went through the gray undershirt and the dark blue overshirt. It soaked them both through. Like, oh, that's why it's cold. So, and the day before, I had gone to a mall to do dog training, and that required me to, let's say, because it was not just crowds. There was another dog training there. And this dog has some slight fear aggression. It's not aggressive, but it responds fearfully. It does the fear side of it but he's not an aggressive dog. And he doesn't like other dogs being near him. Hey, that's working out there. I can see it.
Yeah, I can only do so many, and so I don't like that stinks that it limits it the way that it does, but whatever.
Yeah, well, and the ones who tend to become aggressive, it's a learned behavior. There are very few dogs that are born aggressive. They learn it, either through insecurity or through incorrect treatment. No, it's not healthy for them. So the issue with my dog is that my dog doesn't like being behind other dogs. So I was intentionally walking behind the other dog, and it was driving him bonkers because I had to keep stopping because he wouldn't stay next to me. I had to keep turning right, suddenly, and walking into him to clue him in. Hey, you're not paying attention. You need to pay attention. So he and I walked in so many circles around so many things. Every time we passed an island, I would walk around it so that he would have to pay attention to where we were going instead of the other dog. But all of that while managing all the people who just kept walking right in front of us, or they would see us giving the dogs a rest, or we were practicing covers and stuff, and they would walk right up on top of them but not touch them. It was stressful. So, but I'm doing it on purpose because I need to be able to handle it if I want to do what I was doing at DragonCon. Although if I switch to the video game track, if I go to DragonCon again, it'll be a lot less crowds because I won't be dealing with. I'll just tell Kevin, look, I want to do the smaller stuff, the smaller rooms, so I don't have as many people.
Yeah.
So, but no, what I did was, I have the long opening to get to this. I talked to a person she works with my daughter. She's actually been working with my daughter since we moved here, so kind of a nice thing for her to have some kind of stability, and even with all the changes, when you change from elementary to middle school. Well, she's a nerd. She's proud, nerd proud, full on. Everything she's got is something Star Trek or Star Wars or Harry Potter or dragon or unicorn related. Loves them all. And she had tried to get me to to volunteer at this. It's called Fan Days, Dallas Fan Days. It's kind of like a Comic-Con here. And I had, but I never heard back from them. This was 2 years ago, and then I just didn't do. After that, I couldn't. I'm done. I can't do this right now. So I was talking to her again about it, and she was just telling us about the event, who was going to be there and stuff, because she knew that I wasn't in that place. And so then I just decided I'm going to ask. So if I was interested in trying to do this, to work it as crew and stuff, or as a volunteer, what do I need to do? And she told me what I needed to do, and it basically requires applying for a job because crew is paid. So, but see, what it is the Dallas Fan Days, their crew management is handled by an outside company. Does that make sense? So you apply through them, but as soon as they see what you're applying for, they funnel you over to the Dallas Fan Days people. Because it's like a talent management agency, I think is what it is. So that's what I was doing right before stream. I'd done some work on my writing, as I showed you on that talk thing right there. I was working on more of the choice layout, and but then I just said, okay, I need to make some progress on that, or I'm going to stall out. And so I did. I started filling out my application, and I was already getting nervous just thinking about what if they want to do an interview. And Jen, please share your intentionally good news. Your potentially good news. Well, I need to make a change to that blocker over there. Okay, so we're at 191 and we're adding, it looks like 4 tiles. It's going to go up to 196. Yeah. 2 tiles on this side, 2 tiles on that side. Now I need to see about over here. Partner got an email saying he will soon get a letter with an invite for a job interview. Hey, hopefully it's a good thing. It's the first time we've heard anything back in months. Hey, I'm hoping if they took the time to say we're going to send you a letter, that they're not wasting their time, wasting your time and wasting their time. Like, why would you waste your time to tell me that you're not going to hire me? It doesn't make sense. So hopefully, for your guys' sake, that goes through. That's big for you. It's big for you guys. We're all talking about successes, trying to get ourselves out in the world. Yay!
That is probably it. Being out in the world, for whatever reason, there's just a fundamental fear. And I don't know if it's fear of being out in the... I can't identify what the actual fear is. Whether it's, being killed, seeing something scary, whether it's...
being triggered.
It's being triggered, but I don't know... There's so many things that can trigger. Yeah. That I never know what the specific...
Well, that you just hit it right there on the head. The unknown. There is so much potential unknown. You don't know where it's coming from.
It's just too much.
Yeah. And by the time I get through my Sunday commitment is always I will go to 2 services. And if we have to stop at a store, I will do 1 store. And then I go home, and depending on how that process went, I may have to take a nap. Yeah, that's paranoia could be. For us, it's that our response to normal stimuli is not the same anymore.
Yeah, there's
these things that kind of maybe would have bothered us before, like people walking into your path. I think everybody is bothered by that. Like, why can't you pay attention to where you're walking? Now, I can't help but look in every direction to try to plan for every single person who I see and how I'm going to avoid them if they start walking in my direction. It's a constant struggle for me. And as much, so you need to say something is both a blessing and a curse. As much as the dog helps me, as much as the dog helps me create a focal point that I know I can focus on and I can position so that I can feel safe, he also is an attention grabber. And that's another version of it. The blessing of it is, instead of them looking at me and wondering why I'm looking shifty and constantly moving away from every single person, like, what, does he have a problem? with, is he racist? Is he panicking? Is he up to no good? Is he going to steal something? Is he gonna mass shoot everybody?
Yeah,
all these things that I could potentially look like.
Ugh.
So instead of that, they're looking at the dog, which, okay, that's a good thing, but it also means at some point they are very likely to come talk to me. And I am constantly trying to just smile politely at people when they come and just intrude on me and say, because they want to have something to do with my dog, even if they won't touch him.
Yeah.
I'm getting, sometimes smiling just takes so much effort because I don't feel like smiling. I feel like running.
And then smiling is also an invitation for them to continue or to pursue.
Which is not what I want. And it's he's such a unique. I mean, I knew he was unique when in terms of breed when I got him, but apparently he is really unique because everywhere I go, people are constantly asking, "What is he?"
It's like, none of your business. That's what he is.
Yeah, they want to know what he is because they just can't figure it out from looking at him. So that's the other side of that. And I need to finish making my cards so I can just show them and have a big laminated card that's easy for them to read to say, I don't know, and I need to keep walking, or something like that, just so I can just not have to. It'll be more informative than that, so they at least know I'm not being rude. It's just that for one, they're potentially distracting the dog from what he's supposed to do, and for another, they're putting me in a situation that I don't want.
Yeah.
So, yeah. How we got off on that particular one, the randomness of being out and about.
Yeah.
It's so tiring. I don't like taking a nap. For me, taking a nap is a waste of time because I have so much I need to be doing that I could be working on, but instead I'm hiding in my bed because I'm just exhausted from people, from just being out and trying to manage myself around people. So, yeah, so the thought of actually having to talk to people about doing the work for a convention type thing is just unnerving.
Yeah.
But I also know that from my experience with most conventions, you're not going to find you're going to be hard pressed to find people who are doing that stuff who are not very understanding of people with social difficulties.
True, because in conventions, that's so much of their core audience. So people get it. Or a lot of people get it, I should say. But some people obviously will not. But
well, let's be honest. Let's face it. The people who are running most of the conventions now grew up the same time we grew up, or slightly before. They have the same. They've experienced the same problems that we experienced when it comes to fandom growing up. It was fandom was not as I guess freely accepted as it is now. The only kind of fandom that was okay was sports fandom.
Yeah.
So people just got used to not hiding that side of them and not socializing. And because they weren't they weren't athletic or anything, they couldn't get in. They couldn't get in and hang with the in crowd. And so it's one of the things I hate about school systems is that it just breeds this social game that everyone thinks is so important, when in reality it's not. But conventions, if you're going to pick a place to go where people are more likely to understand that you may have some social anxiety issues and things like that, conventions is where you're going to be able to go and find those people. Plus, you know something. I've said this before. You know something about everybody in the room when you walk in. All you got to do is look at their cosplay or look at their shirts, or their pins or something, or whatever memorabilia they've purchased. You automatically know something about them, which is huge when you're talking about walking into a room full of strangers and trying to figure out oh crap, what am I supposed to do? I mean, it's my wife, and I've mentioned this before on stream, my wife calls Dragon Con, the way she describes it is you're in a room with, you're at a convention with 60,000 of your best friends and you don't know their name.
Yeah.
And see, the thing about Dragon Con for me was the reason why I was still willing to try doing it is because by this point I know all of the places to go to avoid the crowds. I know how to get from point A to point B at Dragon Con and never once have to get stuck in a crowd.
But that's just because
I've been there for so long, and I am not allergic to going outside and sweating.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Whereas a lot of you're still going to sweat if you try to stay where you're not going to sweat because there's just so many people crammed in there. But there's a point where people are just so desperate to stay away from the outside that they will do anything to avoid going out there. And the flip side to that is it's going to take you forever to get everywhere because that's what everybody's trying to do. Whereas if you're willing to just cut outside and cut across a block, you can avoid most of that. So anyway, all that to say, yep, I was working on the application, which is also a run down memory lane.
Well, hopefully that comes out well.
I don't know if I've necessarily spent an entire 3 months indoors. I spent most of my deployment last year basically hiding in my hotel room when I wasn't required to be out and about. There were only a couple times that I didn't do that. And if I wasn't doing that, I was running. And I was intentionally running off base where no one was around. Yeah, you're right. People unfortunately, they just stare. And even if they aren't actually staring, I'm sorry, when I'm out and about, I feel like people are staring at me because I'm not acting like them. Yeah. So that it's paranoia, but it's not something that you can just say, oh, I just need to stop doing it. It's there. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
If I could just turn it off, well, this would be an entirely different discussion.
That's what the problem is. Not being able to shut that stuff off.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Well, so big steps. We took some big steps. You and I took some big steps. So good. So Cellist Mike, once more, congratulations on several big steps in a row. Because, I mean, first you had to actually apply, then you had to set up an interview, and then you had to do the interview.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We can say, look, hey, but you did it all from home, so it made it a lot easier. It doesn't matter. It's nerve-wracking to think that you're going to have to interact with people. It's not easier. Yeah, it's not as easy as it sounds. So good job. Celebrate that one.
Thank you. It is hard to focus on the celebrate it because part of the PTSD for me, and I suspect it's part of the PTSD. I don't know for sure, but it is for me. Is fundamental lack of ability to cope with stress. And stress we think of as a negative connotation thing, but in reality, stress is just pressure in your brain.
Yeah.
And so strong positive emotion or strong positive changes, healthy things are still stressful. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so as an example of how even positive stress is rough for me would be when my disability determination from the Department of Veterans Affairs came in. It was way more than I was expecting. Significantly more than I was expecting. And that positive stress knocked me out for like a month. I just hid from the world for a month straight.
Yes, he did. This was you're talking about years ago, or are you talking about the recent reevaluation?
No.
That you kind of expected that one.
Well, I expected a good news, but not that good of news.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
the whole not being able to deal with positive stress, positive emotion it's a very real thing. I have to manage it. My wife and I kind of do this. We picked it up from some show. I don't remember what show. I'm trying to think about it. It may actually have been Chuck, but the joke was she would always mess up the knock knock joke. He would say knock knock, and she would say I'm here, and my wife and I laughed. That's great. And so one of the things my wife started doing, if she can tell, and she only does it with positive emotions, is if she can tell that I'm just overwhelmed with something that's making me feel good, and I'm not handling it very well, she'll kind of lean in close and just say knock knock, and you'll just wait until I can say I'm here. Oh, that's a nice way to shut it down. The story we got it from, she just didn't get the joke. She didn't understand. But yeah, the not being able to manage positive emotions. That nailed me to the wall when I was in training to become, a chaplain's assistant. I was watching a movie that I knew the result to. I knew how it ended, and I still, when it got to that moment where everybody was celebrating, it was The Martian, by the way. The news had just come back that they got him. The whole world started celebrating, and I lost it. And I don't remember watching the rest of it. I don't remember turning the TV. I don't remember hitting mute on the TV. I didn't turn it off. I just remember I was in bed. I was shivering uncontrollably, and I couldn't warm myself up. I was having a hard time breathing, and my wife somehow figured it out from my text, what I could say in text message, and she called and just started walking me through breathing exercises. And I had to be very careful with those emotions for a long time. And that's when she started doing the knock knock thing is more recent, but she would do those "Are you here?" kind of thing. Are you present, or has something overwhelmed you and taken you someplace else? So now that we've done our little celebration, and that you got to talk on stream, because I've been talking about it since you said. So people have heard me say, "Hey, he did a good job," and so on and so forth. But I wanted to give you the chance to come on stream and say it, so you could put it out there and go, "I did this thing," and tell your side of it instead of me telling him. So good job. So the topic for today, finally getting to after an hour. I put the word mourning in there, but this is a very specific thing. Now, I'm gonna go out right now and say this, something that a lot of people disagree with. A lot of people who I think are completely wrong, and that they're allowed to be wrong. That's my view on it. My wife and daughter and I have just completed a Star Wars marathon in preparation of Episode 9. That meant watching all of the prequels, both of the newer prequels, Solo and Rogue One. We also watched the Clone Wars movie, but we did not watch the entire Clone Wars series. We also did not rewatch all of the Star Wars Rebels TV show. We haven't even finished that one yet. And then we watched the originals, and then we watched Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. And yesterday was when we finally finished. And Jealous Mike, you're aware of this because I've talked about how I've been taking notes on the original series, what it told us about the prequel era.
Okay.
So we finished, and I remember when I went to see Last Jedi in the theater, it was an emotional movie for me. There was the whole... Last Jedi is the one that came out, that's episode 8. So the last one to cut to a premiere, the last one to come out in the theaters before Solo. It has... Okay, well, I unfortunately cannot have the conversation I'm going to have without spoiling something at the end. Okay. So anyone who's familiar with the movie knows that this is the movie where we finally get to see Luke Skywalker. Like they kind of teased him at the end of Force Awakens, but there was no way they could get around not having him in The Last Jedi, because our main character, Rey, is standing there looking at him at the end of Force Awakens. They kind of have to tell us what happens next in that scene.
Yeah.
But we knew we were getting Luke Skywalker. And, okay, I grew up my whole life. I cannot remember a part of my life where Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia and Han Solo and Chewbacca and R2-D2 and C-3PO and Darth Vader and the Emperor were not a part of it. And the actors, Carrie Fisher, and her mom, Debbie Reynolds. I don't remember a world where Singing in the Rain and Star Wars doesn't exist, because I was introduced to them so young that I've remembered them for as long as I can. So in 2016, when Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher died back to back, that hit me very hard. Not as hard as it hit my wife, but it hit me pretty darn hard. And then in 2017, we saw The Last Jedi. And all of those emotions came back. I knew those were going to be rough, because we'd be seeing Carrie Fisher playing a role that we knew she'd already filmed before, but knowing the instant we saw her in that movie, the instant that she appeared on the camera, there was this collective sigh in the theater. Everybody, it was their first time seeing her on screen after her death, and everyone in the room felt it. It was really amazing to watch that, to see that emotional thing. And I focused on it because I didn't want to. I was trying to keep myself from being overwhelmed by it. Okay. Now, for reference, 2017 is a year before my relapse, but I'm still in the throes of fighting for the right rating and fighting with the VA to get the proper care that I need. So it wasn't necessarily any better.
Yeah.
So it was already going roughly for me, but I was aware enough when I went to see this that I needed to prepare myself for seeing Carrie Fisher. So I went in with the mindset I need to guard myself against the emotions of what I'm going to get with Carrie Fisher. Being able to prepare yourself for that is big for me. It's big for being able to get yourself into the mindset. I think, Charles, Mike, you can agree that if you have the opportunity to prepare yourself mentally for something that you're about to expose yourself to or be exposed to, you should do it. It'll allow you to practice, to prep up what you're going to do, what your reaction's going to be, all things like that. So as far as seeing her on screen, I handled the initial thing well. And the moment where creative hacks, exactly. I actually had my Dragon Con earplugs in to protect from all the noise. They cut off the highs, and it allows me to hear loud noises but still have conversations with people. So I had those on, and I had a smooth rock in my hand that I could rub.
Okay.
So it was something I could focus and ground on. And of course, my wife was sitting right next to me. She had a little bit more of a reaction, but she was okay. She can handle those things. So I almost lost that control when her big climactic force scene happens. I don't necessarily have to say what that was, but for me, I knew that they filmed the movie before she got sick and before she died. They had finished all of that, so they had no way to plan for this to fit into the movie, especially because they had already said before Last Jedi came out that she was in Episode 9.
Okay.
So there was some way she was gonna be in it. No, they are not going to rewrite either. They're using footage that they filmed for Force Awakens and The Last Jedi to have her in Episode 9. There will not be any CGI remake of her like they did with Tarkin in Rogue One, and they briefly did with Princess Leia in Rogue One at the very end. They did that with her daughter's permission because it was quite literally a 5-second scene. And she turned around, you saw her face momentarily, she said one line, and then her face was no longer on the screen. And her daughter was the one playing that role. That she filled the body. and she said the line, and then they had the green screen effect on her face so that they could superimpose young Princess Leia's face on there. And I think they used the lines. I think they got the words from her original performance so that they could do that together. It's kind of like they did with Alec Guinness and Obi-Wan Kenobi's line in Force Awakens. To get the word Rey, they went back and found a word that he said that had that sound in it and cut that sound out so it could sound like he was saying her name.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, it's not really that creepy because we've been doing it for years now. We're just getting to the point now where we're doing it good enough that we can blend the two together. And the Maz Kanata character, the big the one that Han Solo took Rey to in Force Awakens, he walked in and she could smell him from the other side of the room and just said Han Solo, and she's kind of the one that was running that bar place. That entire character was modeled off of an actress. The actress who spoke her, actually, they had her set up. She did all the movements herself, and then they built that face around her to create that character. So all of the turning and her head looking and all that stuff like that was actually an actress doing that. And then they later superimposed the alien head around her. So the fact that they could put somebody's face on there, no, it's not even close to new. They did it with, what was it? It was Ant-Man, I think. They had Michael Douglas as young Michael Douglas and Tony Stark in Civil War when he modeled that technology of how you could go back and walk through a memory. And he was so young in that thing. Those were the first initial moments where you saw that technology in full display. So, but as far as the series going forward with The Last Jedi and then the Rise of Skywalker, they had already made it very clear they were not going to do anything like that for her character in Episode 9. So none of that going forward. Although her daughter is still in the series. For those of you who don't realize, Billie Lourd is her daughter. At the end of Force Awakens, she's standing just to screen right of Princess Leia and that crowd watching the Millennium Falcon fly away. And in Force Awakens, in The Last Jedi, she's kind of like a side bridge character who gets a lot of lines. So, but okay, so the moment where Leia displayed her force powers, where we finally saw on screen, oh my goodness, she is actually very powerful. And in canon, Luke has trained her some. So that was always in canon, that she was very powerful, and she did have some training from Luke. But that was the first time we saw it on display, and oh my word, it was like, wow, if you're going to pick a moment to reveal... No, because she didn't really have any of it. They didn't play on it. It was only a hint at the end. Hey, RD Mac, welcome in. Right now we're talking a little bit about Star Wars, but it's related to my experience of watching it yesterday. And I'm just doing the setup for it. So I was very pleased to see her get that Force moment, because we had been told in the EU, which is now Legends, that she was actually much more powerful than was revealed in the original trilogy, and in the canon, the books that are now canon, they've established that she is more powerful than the movie series ever showed. And that moment in The Last Jedi was the first time you actually saw it. So I was very glad they did that. But oh my word, when it happened, I thought, if they had any inkling that she wasn't going to be around for the next movie, this was the perfect spot. Yeah, it's Leia. This was the perfect spot to let her go. And it was such an emotional moment, especially for Kylo Ren. That struggle you saw in his face in that moment. If they had any inkling that she was not going to be around for the next one, that moment in Last Jedi was the moment to let her go. I'm glad we got that moment with her showing off her powers. But, hey, Knots. And everybody watch your ears. Let me turn that down. I can turn the desktop audio down. They've done something to change it. Because I had this issue with them a long time ago. was Streamlabs, and they said they fixed it. No, it's not your fault. Streamlabs did something to their sound thing, so now that even though I have those volumes set at 2%, they are still coming in louder than they were even a month ago. So it's time to fix them all. But yeah, knowing that she was gone and I saw that moment, I almost lost the emotional control I had when going in, that I mentally prepared myself for. I almost lost it right there. What I was not prepared for in any way, shape, or form was what would happen to Luke at the end.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and to anyone who says that, I say, you, sir, do not remember actually how bad the original trilogies were in terms of movie making. I just watched them. There were, if your issue with the new movies is the plot holes, hey, let's go back and talk about the plot holes in the original series. It is pure nostalgia, but here's the thing: I love the originals. I enjoyed having the prequels just because we had more Star Wars, but I hated the prequels. They were bad. They were bad they were horribly written, horribly directed. They were not. The conception of them was just did not work. But I still watched them. And with Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, I went in with no expectations, and I was not disappointed. I wanted a new Star Wars. I wanted it to succeed, and for me, it did. I didn't have any of the issues that other people had with Rey and what happened. Everything made sense, especially now that I just watched it again. All the issues that people complain about her character, it was very obvious in the story that they were telling you why she was able to do what she was doing. They showed it, and even then they showed her flaws in it.
Interesting.
Now, so one of the biggest complaints is, how did she suddenly pick up a lightsaber and was able to defeat a Dark Lord of the Sith? You know, because Kylo Ren is all big and bad.
Mm-hmm.
And their excuse is always, oh, well, remember, he was injured. He had just taken a bowcaster shot. Like, actually, that was what we were saying before you guys accepted that as the reason why he was able to get defeated. They spent the entire movie setting that up, how powerful this bowcaster is, and then they shot him with it, and then, he's injured. And in the next movie, they even talk about the injury. Is it still bothering you? But when in that fight, if you go out and watch that fight, you can see her struggling to figure out the lightsaber. But she had already demonstrated prowess with weapons before that. So the fact that she was able to start figuring it out, that was just her talent with weapons. It had nothing to do with that moment where she took to calm and center herself. That was all she did. They were like, oh, look, she suddenly can use the Force and blah, blah, blah. I said, no. Watch that again. As a person who's very familiar with being nervous and overwhelmed by your emotions, taking a moment to breathe and center yourself makes perfect sense if you stop looking for reasons to hate this thing. So, anyway, with The Last Jedi, there were some huge plot holes in The Last Jedi. No one said there wasn't. The thing for me was, the reason why I rank Last Jedi as my favorite, right behind Empire Strikes Back, tied with A New Hope, is because they were not afraid to do what everyone hated, and that was show Luke as something that he wasn't when we saw him at the end of Return of the Jedi. At the end of Return of the Jedi, he was the hero's hero. He was the idealist who took out the Emperor, saved Darth Vader, won the battle, blah 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 blah. Seeing him hurting, fearful, hiding himself because he was so wounded by what happened, I could not. Yeah, a good person can be flawed. Imagine that. But as a person who had done everything I could to try to make the world a safer place, only to realize that it wasn't happening, and that what I was doing was actually not helping in any way, shape, or form. And then
making it a more dangerous place just by itself.
Yeah, making it a more dangerous place. Think about the story of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi and what he said. I trained him, and I failed him, and he became this dangerous thing that is threatening to wipe out the thing, and I didn't know what to do.
Moral injury.
Exactly. If you want to see And that when that started, when they started showing that part, I started losing it. In the theater. I was barely hanging on, but they did just enough of a peel away from the story to give me time to breathe. So then we get to the climax. I will say, I figured out the trick that they were pulling almost instantly. And the reason why was because everything in the room momentarily slowed down, except for 3PO and Leia. And the instant he walked in, I could tell he wasn't wearing the same cloak. And when we finally came into the light, the very first clue, his beard was no longer gray. Yes. See, I didn't pick up on Jen, at the end of the movie, Luke and Rey had a falling out because she discovered the truth that Luke had thought that he had failed Kylo Ren so badly that the only way to save the universe was to remove him from it. But at the last moment, he had a change of heart and realized, I can't do this because this is my nephew. This is my sister's son. He's lost and he's hurting. And unfortunately, Kylo Ren didn't see that, and they fought, and he wiped out all the Jedi trainees and stole some of them and left Luke for dead. And he went and hid because of that. At the end, though, he comes back. But here's the thing. You gave me permission to spoil. He wasn't actually there. He was projecting himself from the other side of the galaxy. Which, for me, I was thinking, if I was Leia, I'd be thinking, dude, I just pulled off like the biggest force trick ever seen in canon, and then you had to go and one-up me. So, and by the way, those two powers, the one that Leia displayed and the one that Luke displayed, those were EU. Those were things that were in the EU that they brought back and put into canon. And actually, one of them was always the idea of projecting yourself across through the Force across the galaxy in a way that you could physically interact with the world. That was already canon. Everybody just missed it because the director actually, when everyone was complaining about that, he actually went and pulled one of the official Star Wars lore sources out. It's canon and it's been available for years, and flipped it open right to the page. And just held it up. He did this on Twitter. It was a short video and held it up to show, hey guys, guess what? This was always canon. You just forgot. So he projects himself all the way across, and he has this confrontation with Kylo Ren. And the whole point of it was a misdirect. I'm getting you. I know the sight of me standing on this battlefield is going to drive you bonkers to the point that you will stop focusing on the people who are trying to get away. And then as soon as it was clear that they were getting away, that they had made it, Luke vanished. He just vanished from where they was. And I didn't suspect, I figured out that he wasn't actually there. I didn't catch what was coming next. When he was sitting on the... Yeah, I've been trying to get this guy to turn this into a podcast, RD Mac, but... But if you're talking about like a podcast on specific topics, I've considered it. It's just a matter of time. So
we have talked about doing that.
Yeah, about turning these into podcasts. Yes, we have talked about that.
So no, I mean, even before that, we've
talked about it. So we have had the discussion. We've had the thought. We should probably revisit it. So right after he did that, right after he had done this massive trick to project himself across the galaxy, it goes back to him, and at first you're not really sure what's coming next, but then you see him staring out at the sun, and you see the cloud start to come over the sun, and at that instant I knew what was coming next, and I was clenching my rock. I was no longer rubbing it, I was clenching my rock. And then when it gave you the moment where Leia was paying attention and Rey was paying attention to what was happening in the Force, and then you saw the two suns. So it's full circle, Luke staring at two suns, and then he just vanishes, and his cloak falls to the ground. And I barely remember what came next. It wasn't just the culmination of, like, this was my childhood and he has always been in it. But it wasn't just that. I mean, he was one thing for me when I was younger, and now that I'm older, he's, again, exactly what I need right this moment.
Okay.
That, I couldn't... I do too. I think they could have done better with the internal thing. My biggest problem with the sequels is actually just that they still don't have a realistic villain. Snoke is just Palpatine reborn. Kylo Ren is another version of Darth Vader. Try as much as they want to say that he's not, that he's more flawed. He's not as fine-tuned. He's younger, so he's not that. I just don't think. I don't think they've figured out yet how to do a true villain inside the canon universe that isn't some overwhelming, overpowering, Dark Lord of the Sith. They've had more leeway in the games and in the books to develop it. But I mean, frankly, the best villain that exists in the Star Wars universe that's canon,
Lando Calrissian.
Nah, he's more of a contagonist. He's not an antagonist. No, it's Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's a bad guy who is going to do what he needs to do because he's going to fulfill his mission. But he actually understands that leadership is not about fear. Leadership is about loyalty. And you see him having those struggles, those conflicts with what's happening as you go through the stories. Timothy Zahn created him, and Timothy Zahn has the rights to what they do with him, and he's been brought back into canon. Slightly. But but with Kylo Ren, you're right. He is more human of a bad guy than Darth Vader was, and a lot more than the Emperor ever was. But so to bring it back to what I was just talking about, last night, again, I knew it was coming. And when I got to that moment and he faded away, I started crying again. And we had to stop. And my wife had to do the knock knock for me. And it was only a couple moments. And then after we went back in the room and talked about it, and it was me. I was focusing this time on the fact that not just, in the theater the first time, it was Luke's gone. I can't believe Luke's gone. He's been in my life forever, and now he's gone. It was revisiting 2016 all over again. That loss of, Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher. But this was a little bit more, this hit home a little bit more for me because, I was a boy and Luke was a big thing for me. Mm-hmm. And so in the theater, it was the whole Luke is gone. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Luke is gone. Oh my gosh. Last night, it wasn't anything about that. It was more of a realization of just how much Luke had meant to me through my entire life. And they had succeeded in The Last Jedi in making him current for me still. Because in 2017, I knew something was wrong with me. I knew that I needed help with something. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I wasn't the same person. And I knew I wasn't the idealist I used to be. And I knew that I was hiding from what I'd done. And still am in some ways. So seeing that story with the character that was one of the most pivotal characters in my life, fictional wise, it just hit me all again last night. And it's kind of, that's why I went with the topic of mourning. It's not, in this case, I'm mourning the loss of something that was from my childhood, but it's also mourning what that loss.
Your own self and actions.
Yeah, it makes you think, what's changed? What about me was so different now that his story somehow is relevant to me? And it was that, like R.D. Max said before, a good person can be flawed. And I mean, I'm just going to say it here. The reason why Luke wasn't what everybody expected him to be was because he was what reality made of him. He was an adult who made choices that he thought was for the right thing, and it turned out that he was wrong, and he couldn't process it, and he developed PTSD from it because he stayed in that, trapped in that. And it took someone else coming along and reminding him that he still had a role to play. He didn't have to. His story didn't have to end that way. And that message that Rey and Leia were sending to him is, your story isn't over. You still have a role to play. Was very, I mean, for me, that was a feel-good part of it. I was hearing that, that message aimed directly at me is, your story is not over.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true.
And that's the thing about this particular character. Yes, he may have physically left the Star Wars universe, but hello, this movie, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi all established that Jedi are not necessarily always gone. So he still has a role to play. It's just now his role has changed. And what was that role? I mean, there was the end of the story, the very end. How many of you remember that's seen it? How do you remember how Last Jedi ended? I mean, I don't know. Charles, Mike, have you seen The Last Jedi?
I have,
yeah.
But I don't really.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars is my thing.
R.D. Mac, the kid. Yes, the kid. Exactly. The director of the movie ended it with this tribute to all of us who Luke Skywalker was that little ray of hope back when we were growing up, that we could be something more. And that kid walking out, it wasn't just that he walked out and he was showing the symbol of the thing, and he was pretending like he was Luke Skywalker in the story he just told, because the story of Luke Skywalker and what he did to Kylo Ren in the First Order was spreading. That spark. That was what Luke was. He was that spark again. But when he stepped out, R.D. Mac, the next time you watch it, watch how he gets the broom. Because there's something that I didn't catch that the first time. None of us did. But there was even this little nugget in how the kid got the broom. Exactly. He used the Force to get it. And one of the things that this series has been doing, this new series has been going to great lengths to say, and Luke Skywalker straight up said it to her when she first came to him, the Force is not just for the Jedi. The Force is for everybody. It's not just the Jedi who have the power to save the universe. And he was saying it because he wanted her to leave him alone. But in the end, I think he realized, yeah, it may not need a Jedi to save him, but it may need a Jedi to inspire them. And I think that's why he came back. And so, thinking about that, and I think about what we do here, what we're trying to do here, Mike, we're clearly still struggling with something, but trying to be that inspiration to people to go get the help that they need. I mean, it's amazing to me how that story just keeps, the story of Luke Skywalker, in particular the story of Last Jedi, just keeps being applicable to me. Things that you don't realize that are there. These layers in the story. So, anyway, well, that was the topic for today. And I personally think that The Last Jedi is a very good movie. And for me, honestly, the plot holes that are in it are the same plot holes that you get in all sci-fi movies. Like, for example, why do all of the battles happen on a flat plane? Mostly it's for ease of shooting. It's easy to conceive a battle on a flat plane. We were watching the Clone Wars, and they had the droids charging the clones, and I kept thinking, why are they charging? This isn't the Middle Ages. Why aren't they hiding why aren't they all positioned themselves in the buildings all around, and as the droids come marching down the thing, because they're droids, that's what they do, why aren't they just shooting them apart from secure positions? So there's little things in movie making that are just, that drive me bonkers. I go back and I watch the things that the Empire does, the Imperial soldiers do, and the things that the the Rebels and the New Republic, or all of them do, and it just, like, why are you doing that? It's so stupid, and it's because that was the way it was written. The person couldn't imagine it any other way. I think I may have lost Jealous Mike. He's still in Discord. I think he stepped away for a moment. So, sorry for spoiling the movie for you. Sorry for spoiling the movie for you, Jen, but I couldn't not talk about it after seeing it again. It's just amazing to me how I've only seen it twice, but both times it got to me. Yeah. I wanted to make sure you knew so you could, but it was just, this is twice now that I've seen that movie, and both times it managed to hit me in a different way. I think I've only really watched Force Awakens twice too. I really enjoy when modern media actually takes things like that. Because one of the things that we're trying to do here is we try to talk about these things so people can come in and listen and not feel alone. Because too often people just don't want to talk about these things. And it's nice for me when major pieces of media, of art, take these things into consideration and put them in their story. Sometimes subtly, but they still do it. I mean, let's face it. Star Wars is a powerful, powerful brand. It is a very powerful brand. There's no one's going to argue with that. It's as powerful as Coke and McDonald's. Even though George Lucas tried to kill it. So seeing something on that level take this topic up and talk about it, I thought was brilliant. And when I was able to finally talk last night with my wife about one of the things that, being self-aware about the movie, I actually had the thought that I think one of the reasons that people so hated what they saw in Luke, what became of Luke, was because that they hated what they hate what they themselves have become. And seeing him like that, instead of him being that thing that they could always run to, that was always going to be the light for them, change like that was too much for them. And that's why they lashed out at it. I'm not making excuses for trolls. I'm just understanding people is part of what we talk about here. We talk about people needing, not needing, but if they want to really help people like us recover, understanding them and what goes into what led to that is important. So I think going around, if I'm looking at the responses that people had to that movie and what they said and how they said it, I think it really was, it wasn't just that they were mad that the character of their childhood had changed like that. It was that the character from their childhood had not only changed that way, but in a way that was almost too close to home. It hit too close to the mark for them and they couldn't handle it. Now, I'm only saying that in reference to how they responded about Luke. None of that. I'm not talking about none of the. I'm not including any of the responses the things that they've done to the actresses for Rose and Rey. None of that. That was just stupid people being stupid. Okay, so something is wrong here, and I think it's with my count, because this is clearly coming out too far. Because I've only got 2 tiles left to go out here, and if you look over there, I have 3 there. So I think that one's right, but this one's wrong. So I need to look at my tile sheet again. But I'm curious, for those who are hanging out in chat, is there a movie or a book or something that's done something similar for you, that's taken something? It could be something that you start, that it's a series that's been around a long time, but has somehow managed to keep itself relevant despite how you've changed. Going back and watching the original Star Wars trilogy, I don't feel the same anymore. Because it's all about that when I see that, I just see the young, idyllic version of me that I aspired to be. But now that I can see it with the sequels and the story growing, it just surprised me how much it's still applicable. So you had a book that you grew up with. So she got sick being outside, rescuing a cat. And there was a man who actually turned out to be her doctor who scared her. I have some books like that too that I can't remember from that I remember reading when I was growing up, and I just never I can't remember. We can't find them now for the life of me. My wife has tried because she's like, well, I have all the books that I remember. Let's see if we can try and find some of yours. But there was this story about a boy and his shovel, and there was a story about I remember the red balloon one. We found that one, but there was another one about this kid and I think there's some kind of machine that he was working with, and we just can't find him. Well, does it really matter if you can remember why it stuck with you? The fact is, it stuck with you. Okay, so let me check my count here because I want to make sure that I've got this thing right. So we have and Charles Mike did tell me he stepped away. He just did it in Steam, and I have Steam muted, so I can't hear it. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Okay. 3, 5, 97. Okay, so that's going to be 180, 194, 195. Okay, so 195 on this way. Okay, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 3, 7, 87. Is that right? Doesn't seem right. Let me count this again. That's center. Right? Yeah, that's center. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Yeah, so 70. I thought 80 was off. 77. So that would be 40, 150. That one's right. So 155 is right. Okay, but the other one was wrong. So now let me adjust this. Let me go back to 2D. I can see the difference that this makes. Something is off. Okay, so this should be 12 coming out to there. Well, I mean, if you, depending on how long that this particular mental difficulty has been in your life, I could see why that would stick with you. I mean, it makes sense. If you've struggled with paranoia for a long time, I could see why that story would stick with you. It's 12-ish, so before you had the troubles. Doesn't mean you won't remember it. I remember most of the things I read at the age of 12. It's the stuff prior to that it starts to get a little fuzzy. But I remember that time of my life, I was reading. Oh man, what was I reading? I was reading Chronicles of Narnia, and so that's 1990. I think that was the year before Timothy Zahn wrote his Heir to the Empire trilogy. You could do that. Do it on Discord though, because I won't see the things, and it's easier for me to see things in Discord if you're in the Discord. I'll bring up a window, so if you whisper it on Twitch, I'll see it, but I'm less likely to see it there because I tend to view things in full screen. So, but yeah, I remember. What was it? What? 1990. Yeah, I think 1991 was when, or 92, something like that, was when Dark Force or Heir to the Empire came out, and the whole Star Wars. Yep, there it is. That'll do it. Yeah, for this stream I kind of cut. I forgot to change them, but I did reduce the number of timed posts that the bot is doing. to kind of reduce the clutter, but I forgot to change them because this is actually they're actually set up for the extra life stream, so they only post the extra life things and I forgot to change them to the stuff for this stream, which is the safe space one and the PTSD one. Just forgot to do that. I mean, it didn't help. It didn't help that OBS decided to crash twice right before I was getting ready to stream. Oh, and welcome back.
Thank you.
And yeah, we didn't hear any of what you did.
Did you tell everybody?
No, I didn't tell them what you said. That's your secret to tell. I do not tell other people's secrets. The whole thing, one of the biggest issues I have with modern TV writing is that they constantly have these people like, I don't keep a secret from me. You do not keep a secret from me. What was this show? Oh, it was a show that I was watching where this was huge for the character, and when she found out the whole safe space situation. I'm not sure which situation, but yes, that's me. That's me. There you go. You got me. Not telling. Yeah, exactly. Not telling other people's secrets. Exactly. If you tell me something in a whisper, why would I share it? Exactly. So, Charles Mike, you told me something in a whisper, and why would I share that? But it's in writing. It's so. Arrow deals with this a lot. The DC series on all the DC series on CW, they deal with this a lot. People getting upset because somebody kept a secret from them, and not once does anyone, when they finally are asked, why did you keep a secret from me? Not once does anyone ever say, because it wasn't my secret to share. I didn't want it. So don't get mad at me for not sharing it because it wasn't my secret.
So I have this is a tangent on this, which is very, very much off topic, but it's one of those things because honesty, when we were doing the core values things, honesty is one of those that really came, it got very, very, very far into the cutting things.
The integrity thing.
But ethics kind of won out because it's an overall sense of ethics, and depending on the circumstances, one ethical behavior may trump another ethical behavior. And that's the same thing for, let's say, honesty and integrity. It's very important to me.
Yeah. Just because having integrity doesn't mean that you have to tell everybody everything.
Exactly. And so keeping another person's secret is part of one of those things where honesty can trump it, but it's one of those, they're so close that it's really, really, it angers me when I'm put into a position where I have to pick between lying or keeping a person's secret. You know what I mean? Like, that really angers me when somebody puts me in that position.
Well, I mean, at this point, it's a little harder for me to and I don't really have these situations anymore, but if I were writing something like this, I would put that in there to say, look, you're not going to put me in this situation. You're not going to get mad at me because I can't tell you something that's not my secret to share. Me not telling you is not me lying to you or keeping something from you. It's me having the integrity to realize this is not my secret to share, and if this secret is meant to be shared with you, the person whose secret it is will tell you. And it's just this thing in modern TV writing that it's a trope that they fall back on, especially in drama series. Of what's another trope they fall back on? It's everything's going too well, so let's have him turn out to be a cheater. And every show, that's what they fall back on. It's just a complete lack of any original thinking on their part.
Well, it's you call it a trope, but that may be more common in the world than you're acknowledging, and that's what this story is to highlight.
I mean every TV show, it's the thing that happens. It's always he's a cheater when it comes to married couples. That's what they fall back to. Oh, it's a cheater. The only show that I can think of that didn't delve into that was, funnily enough, How I Met Your Mother. with Marsha and not Marsha, with Marshall and whatever his wife's name was, Lily, I think.
Yeah.
It was very obvious that the writers didn't know what to do with a couple that was Lily. They didn't know what to do with a couple that was happily in love and married to each other. They didn't know what to do, so they created all this weird future things that they were going to run into that just never made any sense. And when they finally just stopped doing that nonsense and just let them be, I think the couple got a little more easy to, I don't want to say swallow, but it was very obvious that the writers were struggling because they didn't understand the concept of why would two people be happily. Go ahead.
One of the things we look for in entertainment is drama, and it's not dramatic.
Yeah,
Happy marriage is not dramatic.
No, that's bull crap. That is bull crap. I have been happily married to my wife for 18 years, and there is still drama that happens. It's just, it's easier to deal with. I guess it's easier to convey infidelity on TV than it is to actually have to show a married couple struggling with the day-to-day the problems that come up. Okay, why would a happily married couple suddenly be fighting? What? It can't just be infidelity. It can. These things happen. My wife and I are the best of friends. At this weekend, we had a tiff.
Sure.
It happened. Once I understood what was going on, it made complete sense to me. She was sick. Okay. And there were other stressors going on. But to say that couples who are happily committed and married to each other don't have drama is a load of bull honky that they just don't show in TV, because it's actually, that would require them actually seriously writing dialogue instead of just falling back on the same old tropes. Okay. It's hard to make day-to-day things seem difficult and dramatic. But there are so many things that they could do. So they kept it that way. Exactly. In later seasons, they find. But you remember right after they got married, after about the first season, maybe the last half of that season into the next season, they were always doing these weird flash forwards into this future part of what was coming, and they were this strange couple that was nothing like what they were before. Nothing like what they were before. And when they finally stopped doing that and just said, let's just leave that off to the side. It's not like they said it wouldn't happen. They just stopped highlighting that's where they thought that's where they were going with it. It got better.
I never really tried to make analogies from that show into anything real or reality, because it was also
fake.
Yeah, it was intentionally fake.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're going to get that with a lot of, especially sitcoms. I mean, what's the most famous sitcom that we know out there?
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. Okay, Seinfeld's premise from the beginning is this is stupid. This is
exactly.
This entire show is about stupid nothingness. Artie Matt got it. Oh. Friends. Nothing about that show was realistic. Absolutely nothing. They never worked. Not really. I'm gonna leave that one out for now. It's not a good series. It's not. No, I mean, think about the expectations that put in people's heads about what life could be. It's fine. Hey, you didn't know. It's fine. But they never worked. They were in these apartments that no one could afford with what they were doing. There's lots of they do put a lot of stuff in there about their jobs, so their jobs at least made sense. For me, the payoff on the end wasn't. Go ahead.
I'm not gonna say it, but there was something that was blocked in chat by the family friendly filter bot, and that word, when I was young, I didn't know what the connotation was, and so I used it all the time. And then one day, my mom was like, she had had enough of it, and she I don't remember if it was like slapped me or washed my mouth out with soap or something, but even then she didn't tell me why it was bad.
You should tell them where you were raised.
Oh gosh.
It's going to explain a lot about why that happened. Come on.
So my family is Mormon. I was raised in Salt Lake. I am not Mormon.
So some parents are like that, Jen. I think the mistake that my parents got lucky because I just didn't want to say things like that. Mainly because the one thing that I did get from them was that this stuff is most often is derogatory. I'm going to allow that.
Oh, I was about to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to allow that one. However, the best way to say it now is to say it like this. This is
He suffers from autism.
He has it. So you don't say autistic person or autistic child. You say person with autism. That's the clinically correct way. I'm not saying the PC correct way. The clinically correct way to refer to it.
It's just the bot blocking it as a reflection of how common it is for people to use it as a pejorative.
Yes, exactly. Oh, this is a more recent thing. My sister has a son who has autism, and when this first came up and we were talking about it, it was the other way around. He's autistic. That was the way it was. And so just as recently as 5 years ago, that was still the way it was being referred to, even in a clinical basis. Now they've switched it around. They had to do that, really? They had to explain to him, and at the context he used it in. They say, you used it correctly, but it's a bad word.
So I don't have any children, but I'm the youngest of 7 kids. Again, Mormon family. It's not.
Hold on just a second. It's not that we're filtering things. It's that we're trying to refer to them in ways that don't. It's the difference between saying you're a stupid person or you did a stupid thing. That's the difference. By saying they're a stupid person, you're actually making a comment on their intelligence. By saying you did a stupid thing, you're commenting about their decision making. That's an entirely different thing.
And so, specifically for Guthron and I, we have, because of for me, my mom was an English teacher. I mean, she taught special education kids, special ed kids, but she studied English as a language. And then Guthron being a writer, but also our professional background, Guthron and I were both linguists, so we studied languages and meanings and context. And so for us, it's not about when we say things one way versus another way, it's not about being politically correct sometimes. It's specific to the context or the meaning, or we're anal like that.
Yeah. But some of it is my wife's influence, because my wife is studying this, and it's just the thing to do now is to say it that way. So you don't call people with dwarfism dwarfs anymore. You call them people with dwarfism.
Let's see. So part of that same switch with the autistic to autism is with the DSM-5. They changed some of the terminology reflecting the different.
Yep. Yes, they did.
Sub varieties of autism, and so things like Asperger's syndrome doesn't exist anymore. It's on the autistic spectrum.
Yep.
Or autism spectrum. But
yes, that's one. They used to include. They may still, but there's a change to how they referred to ADHD in relation to the autism spectrum. Because I know it used to be that they were a person with ADHD or ADD, which now they actually just call it ADD. That's another change. It's just all called ADD. Just different
types. Like I have ADD.
ADD with hyperactivity.
ADD is not on the autism spectrum.
I think it did. RDMAC, I think it did. Yeah. That's that autism spectrum disorder. Yeah.
Yeah, ASD can exist.
But that was just a way to categorize it all. And so Asperger's and ADD and ADHD were classified in the autism spectrum disorder. They've changed it now, so Asperger's isn't on there anymore. And I think I heard my wife say, yeah, that's the umbrella term. I think I heard my wife say that they now don't consider ADD to be a part of the spectrum like they used to think it was.
I didn't know they ever did.
They did, but you're talking just on the upper end. And actually, no, I remember what it is now. Because the discussion was always about my daughter and her connection to the spectrum. And I for years thought it was because of the ADD that was what it was, but no, it turns out it was the sensory processing disorder.
That is on the ASD.
That is on the ASD, which is something that she got from my wife and I. So, depending on how intrusive into your life it is, it classifies whether or not. But for my daughter, we couldn't touch her without her having an strong physical reaction to it. Usually, I'm in pain. She had to go through, I think, 1.5 years of therapy designed to reduce her reaction to sensory input because she was just being so overwhelmed by it. Yeah, it is a broad spectrum. You're right. The things that people know to be, you're getting in my way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stop it. I'm having a hard enough time keeping track of where I am. I don't need you trapping me in a square block.
Oh, you moved.
Yeah, I did. Yes, that's the level of functioning is connected to where they are on that spectrum. But that's not to say that a person who would be farther down on that spectrum, so more strongly with autism, it's that because you can have a person who's down that road and develop functionality if the environment encourages them, which unfortunately most of our schools don't do. And frankly, from my experience with the European schools, they don't do any of it right. As backwards thinking as a lot of Europeans think Americans tend to be when it comes to education, from my experience with both the British school system, the German school system, the French school system, and the American school system, there is no doubt that the American school system is leading the way in how to properly integrate people with special needs.
I can attest to that because at least in Utah, both my grandmother and my mother were both special needs educators.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had.
That's what my wife's job is, by the way. She's a teacher's assistant to she's a paraprofessional to a teacher whose sole job in the school is to teach children with autism.
Mm.
Oh, so his language has improved, his diet. Oh, there are so many factors. Many factors. Every day my wife comes home and talks about these kids. We've given them code names, so we refer to them by their favorite animals. So we'll just talk about the kid, this animal kid or this animal kid. A lot of it though is talking about what she's trying to do to help them improve, and you would be shocked how much proper diet and an actual understanding of where they are functionally can completely change their progress in school. One of the kids this year, none of the other teachers in the school liked him. My wife didn't either, but she found something that worked for him, and she's been doing the extra on it, and that now he's turned into her favorite student, and all of the teachers have come and told her, I don't know what you did, but thank you. He is so much better now. Oh, I don't like schedule changes either. Schedule changes are... they throw me for a loop. That's why the weekends toss me for a loop. Because I have such a hard time getting back on track. But that's an interesting... Now, RD Mac, the question for you. If you don't let him drink soda, sugar... If you don't let him drink... He will eventually drink water. He ended up in the hospital. try seltzer water. It's not necessarily the sugar that may be, it may be the carbonation. I find that if I don't get a nice carbonated beverage at some point in the day, I start craving carbonation. Not the rest of it. I will drink an unflavored seltzer water to get that carbonation thing. I just like the feel of the carbonation. I don't know what it is. So, as they call it in Germany, Mineralwasser, which is just sparkling water. Which we actually got. My wife picked up a SodaStream on really cheap sale, and we were using that for a while. And all we would do is just push the gas into the water. We wouldn't add flavor or anything. Mm-hmm. But no, RD Mac, I was going to ask you, this particular YouTuber you're talking about, does it, when he's doing his shows and uploading videos, is his primary focus about the children with autism, or is it just something he talks about? And I do not mind. No, I don't mind if you share. You can. Thank you for stating that, but I don't mind if you share that, because I'm interested, and I'm sure someone else catching this later on the VOD might be interested in who it is we're talking about. I don't mind sharing other people's, what they're doing. It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Oh no, what you were talking about? Yeah, so the channel's a bit of both. That's fine. My channel's a bit of everything. I got we do PTSD Talk on Mondays, create a safe space, blah, blah, and then Monday and Wednesday nights I'm just being silly, and then Fridays it's all about charity, and I'm mixing creative streaming in there too. So.
My best friend's younger brother, growing up my best friend. I can't call him my best friend anymore because he's not around anymore. But his younger brother has Down syndrome, and it wasn't severe. It was moderate in intensity or severity, I should say. But he was always treated like most of his family always treated him as though it was more severe than it truly was, and that resulted in him not learning how to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody ever pushed him to speak, even though he was capable of it. He never learned. Yeah. I think by now he probably has, because now he's most likely in a
welcome in IQ Omega
state-sponsored group home. But at the time, yeah, I mean, even as far as when I was an adult in the military and left, he still couldn't speak. He was 18 or 16, 17 at the time.
It's tricky as parents and family who are raising them. It's tricky to find that what works. Sometimes you just want the chaos to not be there. You know what I mean? You just want things to function. And sometimes it's easier to do that than it is to do all the things that you need to do. It takes a lot. It's a discipline. It takes a lot of discipline on your part to do the things that are right. I mean, I experience this with my daughter all the time. And in fact, I've been intentionally putting myself through professional development for teachers on classroom management and things like that, conflict resolution and stuff like that, just so I can manage my daughter better. Because it's easy it's frustrating, but if you don't do it, it gets more frustrating. Used to be in a youth group when I was younger. It was precursor to our armed forces youth divisions, and there was a guy with autism. Yes. Experience does help. Experience with it does help, and knowing where to go to find the help you need to do it. I mean, I think one of the biggest mistakes we make when we're trying to do these things is that we think that you're just supposed to figure it out. We don't ask, and we think that asking for help is a sign that you're just incapable of doing what you should be able to do. And I think that's the worst possible way to think about such things.
Yeah, I mean, if you're working, and this kind of expands to anybody. If you're interacting or working with somebody with a fundamentally different history and existence to you, how are you supposed to just wing it?
Yeah. Hey, Jen, you do what's best for you. We know this can be a rather intense stream when you get talking about things, so everybody, so let's all take a moment, Okay, so we're all going to do this together because we've had
A health check.
10 stream. So do a body check, see if your heart rate's up, see if anything's perspiring, if you're itching anywhere, you're got tingles, anything like that.
Check.
And then
Consciously check your breathing, make sure that you're breathing regularly.
And then that was the very next thing I was going to say. And then let's just take let's take 3 deep breaths.
I caught myself as having stopped breathing. I was holding my breath, and I didn't realize it until you mentioned that you need to calm yourself.
It's
so thank you.
It's surprising how much people don't understand that just breathing, just taking a moment to just breathe, is such a restorative thing. You just, it's something you do naturally, you just don't think about. So, Jen, first off, I want to say, sorry I brought the attention to you. So next time, I'm just going to go straight into doing something like that, so that you don't feel like I highlighted you or brought it out. Okay, that was not the block I meant to wipe out. So
I'm just sitting here shooting a phaser off into infinity.
You're listening. You're listening to heavy metal while we're talking about such things. How can you actually hear us? Oh, by the way, for those of you who don't know, I Kill Omega is another member of the Pixel Sharks team, and he is the person who is responsible for that lovely bit of art on the cover of my book.
Heck yeah, man. So he is a published artist.
And that is my copy. That's actually the book, I Kill Omega, that you signed. Okay, so Artie, Mac, you went on annual camps, and parents arranged for you guys to be together. That's good. It's a familiar face is good. It is really good. And what's really impressive is that you knew, even at that age, what to do. It's really good that you were able to do that. Well, I'm glad you can still hear us, I Kill Omega. And I hope that your work isn't as frustrating later. But remember, breathing exercises, breathing drills.
So every time I was saying that I was playing World of Warcraft Classic with... Who was I saying I was playing with?
Fluffy.
Fluffy. Every time I said I was playing with Fluffy, I was actually playing with I Kill Omega.
Yeah, for the longest time, I Kill Omega, he thought you were InstaFluff, the guy who did Stream Puppy that I used to manage this, and who did the screen, the game, that game, really? Again, here we go again with everything messing up. That game right there on my BR pack screen. I mean, everything is messing up. They're all messed up. What I may have to do is just wait until I go live and then go into the settings and just make all that and just do all the hotkeys then, just to see. But it's just stupid that because 45 minutes ago when I tapped that button, it didn't do that. Suddenly, it's doing it.
So weird.
I just look and relay what it looks like on our end. Yes, RDMac, please. I want to know who it is, and since you mentioned it on here, I want to make sure we mention that so that if anybody else wants to find out what they're doing, they can. Seeing other people struggling with the same things you do is really empowering.
And even when our struggles don't necessarily reflect what you're feeling, there's usually between different mental health disorders, there's enough overlap of symptoms.
There's a lot of overlap, yeah.
That things can sound very, very similar.
Yes, that is it. That is that is exactly the channel. You got it right. And I'm not sure why it's not giving me the normal link, but here we go. That should take you to his channel. that, because it's a catch-22, isn't it, Jen? You need to feel safe enough, stable enough to put yourself out there to get help. But sometimes in order to get that, you need help to get there. So that is one thing I like. That is one thing I really like about this particular medium, is that it allows us to have those conversations and allows people to feel comfortable enough to start talking about what they're facing. And eventually the idea is to help you get to a point where you can actually go talk to a professional. We love being able to help you. It's one of the reasons why I started in this, because I didn't feel like I was able to help people as much anymore because of my anxiety. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this with the channel, is I wanted to help people. But
the level of help that this offers versus
this is what's the word there's a term for it. It's layman level, I guess would be the right thing. Yeah, we are not professionals, although I have had some training in crisis intervention and crisis intervention counseling, and more importantly, I've had a lot of training in finding resources.
But that's like first aid versus surgery. Exactly.
That's actually a great way to put it. First aid versus surgery. But yeah, doing this is not a popular move for this channel, in terms of it's not going to get a lot of eyes on it. But I think that even if it's just a couple of people, it's still doing something that is as important as, say, keeping you entertained all day by doing a 24-hour dance-a-thon or something like that.
Well, plus it's for those of you who do come in, because Artie, Mac, Jen, you guys have been regulars the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, when some people do. I mean, Jen found me because someone else who had popped in to see what I was doing. He was just curious. He wanted to see what it was we were talking about. And then when I showed up in his channel on a Sunday, because he streams on Sundays, and I like, when I'm doing work, I like to hang out in his stream.
This helps us.
Well, yeah, it helps. But he wanted to say, hey guys, this is serious. They're talking about deep stuff, and more importantly, they want you to feel like you're not alone, that someone else understands, and they just want to give you a place to talk about it. And that's how Jen found me.
Oh.
And I will gladly give him a shout out, because I've been following him for a while, and he's always got a chill stream. If you want a place to just sit down and relax, that's the place to do it when he streams.
I will say that when we plan out a really heavy topic, because I don't think today was really a big...
No, it wasn't. This was more about me wanting to talk about how that movie managed to affect me again, even though I knew it was coming. So,
but there are some times where this stream will be really, really difficult, and the after, the benefit from it doesn't really come immediately. It comes kind of just in that long-term effect, because I don't know about anybody else, but for me, when therapy is really effective,
it can be really intense.
It can be really intense and hard at first.
So it'd be interesting, RDMac, which channel we would have met in, because I'm pretty sure we did meet in another channel. And Jen, I'm glad that you feel better after these streams. I do think about you afterwards, because I know that the last couple times we've done this, you've at the end, you've had to take some time to center yourself, and so I have been thinking about you. So I'm glad to know that you still consider it a benefit.
Yeah, that's us for sure. Is having to recenter and take time.
Well, and there is something extremely healing about helping others. I talked about this when I was talking about the 4 words that you could put over you, and one of the words that from that message was about helping others. But so you're not thinking about yourself, and that the act of doing that is so regenerative, for your soul. However you want to look at your soul, helping others has a positive effect on you.
Well, and you guys being here and participating helps me. Because you and I, Brian, talking helps me, but having other people here too, relating, being able to, identify with the things that we're talking about, it makes me feel less lonely. It makes me feel less isolated.
Yeah. That's a big one, the not feeling isolated. I think sometimes, well, and I've said it before, I like to help other people, but the main reason I started this was to get you out of your shell.
Yeah.
To give you something where you could be out there, but still be safe. Which is, again, what Jim was saying. Feeling safe is huge, and for you and I, even more so. I would say even for Jen, not even less than us, because of the diagnoses that she shared with me. But yeah, I got RD Mac. As soon as you said cosplaying and mini painting, I knew exactly who you were talking about, because that is quite literally all she ever streams. And she's British, so she's usually on much earlier in the day. She's kind of like when 2D Curie is on. Another streamer I watch who I make sure I'm watching. I'm in her channel and I'm hosting it because she applied for partner, so I'm helping her.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stasius is on the same time.
If I'm awake and on the computer when 2D Curie streams, I pull her up. Even if I'm doing something else, I still pull her up just to help her out.
She's already applied. Now she's just waiting for Twitch to answer, but TwitchCon is coming up, so I don't think she's going to get an answer for a while, which is unfortunate for her because, I mean...
Did TwitchCon already happen this year?
No, everyone's still talking about going, so couldn't have happened.
Okay.
Current wait time is 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah, but see, she's in a different region. In that region, they said, what was it? I heard two different things. I heard 2 weeks. It was just straight up 2 weeks. TwitchCon Europe did, yeah, but that was I think that was 3 weeks ago or something like that.
Okay. Isn't it
another
nice
one
to
of your
have
flock
that
applying?
black, that black ground? When you're looking, you don't see grass.
It is a big difference, yeah. It
does make there's still grass over there. Garbage.
Yeah, you're not done yet. What are you doing? Stop talking about what it's supposed to look like and get over there.
So we're doing Minecraft because you wanted to. I have so little interest in Minecraft. I burnt out so badly on this game.
Yes, but it's something we can do. It's not too engrossing.
We can just step aside and talk whenever we need to.
Yeah, and no one is really gonna complain. You're playing this on a second screen. So it was in April, yeah. So it's been a while since TwitchCon Europe, and yeah, I like that. I like that we're getting you out of your hidey hole, Jen. I like that some of you, and you know what? You know what will make me even happier is that someday you don't need to come and hang out with us because you're just you've progressed on your journey enough that you don't need it, and you come and hang out with us just because you want to. Yeah, just hanging to hang, yeah. But this is one of those things where I would gladly see you vanish as a viewer if I know that the reason why is because you're living life. Oh, I enjoy hanging out with you guys as well, and I enjoy the fact that you guys are. I mean, talking about these things is really good. I mean, I don't think if I hadn't talked with my wife yesterday, I probably might not have been able to talk as effectively about what happened. Talking is so big. It's such a big deal, being able to share with somebody who gets it, or at least knows how to listen. Too many times, people just don't know how to listen.
I was told that. It was probably the most shocking of breakups I ever had. Not shocking because it was dramatic. I don't tend to have dramatic breakups in romantic relationships. But the girl who told me that I couldn't listen or I didn't listen just blew my mind. I'd never heard it before. And I still, to this day, don't know what the reference was to.
Well, may never know. But
yeah, and that's just how it goes.
Well, and Jen, at some point, I like to get everybody who's a part of this to come on and share their story. And you're not there yet, but when you get there, I would love to have you on in Discord to just talk about your story.
Talking to the student union to try and start talks on mental health from people. They want to spread awareness, but not like that.
Yeah, because that would require too much effort.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a goal board. That's great. I'm so glad you have a goal board. It's so nice to have that sometimes, because it really makes it easy, and it's a tangible way to... It's like this thing right here. It's a tangible reminder that I'm not a failure. That's what all this is. Yeah. That's why I keep it there.
You do have to make sure that they're achievable.
Achievable Go ahead.
Based on who you want to be, but achievable based on who you are.
Yeah, the adjusting to the new norm. We've talked about that before. Of I know I once could do this, now I can't, and I have to adjust to accommodate to account for that. And that's a big step, realizing that you can't just function the way you used to. That's a huge step for people to be able to get. That's a massive amount of self-awareness.
Nice. Very nice. On the outside, I was still bodybuilding.
Good. I'm glad it is.
Somebody like me talking about it would help destroy the circuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll notice that I still haven't been able to get Cellist Mike to come on camera.
Well,
you put a picture of him up.
That's more because I haven't figured out how to make it so our lips moving in conversation matches, because the delay in I don't know. Maybe
One of the things I'm going to say in response to your story there, RD Mac, is that often it's more about providing people the opportunity, even if for a long time they don't take you up on it. And so, in reference to your previous statement about how they didn't want to do it that way, that would be because it would take a lot more effort on their part to do what you were talking about. And you're right, seeing someone who is in a position that normally you wouldn't see someone struggling with those issues is extremely it is extremely big for people to see, that even people who look like they don't have problems still have problems. That's big. That's huge.
Yeah.
But you may have to do something like that where you just say, I'm going to do this, and if no one shows up, that's fine. I'll spend some time, doing yoga or something or whatever. And then eventually you'll see someone might show up to go, hey, what's going on here? And then you just start a dialogue. It's kind of like this. We started doing this so we could talk. And I said I wanted to get him out of his shell, and then other people started coming and talking. My wife does a volunteer thing every Wednesday night where she goes to our church, and they have this thing where they welcome in, they call them butterflies. They are women who are in the industry, the adult industry, who want to get out. And they've gone weeks without people showing up. And then suddenly a bunch of them will show up. It's providing them the opportunity where they know they could come if they needed it. And there's no pressure. It's just, we're here to take care of you in the way that you currently have. And that can mean you have a lot of days where it looks like you're not making a difference because no one's coming. But then suddenly, because you're consistent in that, people will just start showing up. So it is unfortunate, RD Mac, that you weren't able to do that, but your head was in the right place. Okay, so let me catch up on Jin here. Yeah, Discord is much easier to do than being on camera. I'll agree with you that we need to take the ignorant and educate. Yep, there's a lot of ignorance there's a lot of misinformation.
There's yeah. And which makes people think that they're not ignorant because they're like, oh no, I know about that. Like, no, you don't.
Well, I'd say, Jen, if we're talking about, I know what you're talking about job-wise. You're right. If you haven't struggled, doing a job like that is not, it's a lot harder. If you've struggled with something, it's a lot easier for you to be someone in a helping position like that than it is if you've never struggled with it at all. 7 So you're right. It's very important. But I think what I've found with what my wife talking about the steps that she's being, she has to take, it's more a matter of, it's not that you can't be, like, it's not that you have to be, like, this stuff doesn't affect you. It's that, are you in a position now?
Kind of more, can you separate your own position rather than your, the people you're working with's position? If you can manage to, oh, I forget what the word is. What is it when you put your schema of understanding the world onto somebody else, like make somebody else as an avatar for yourself? I forget what that word is.
Me too. I know what you're talking about. You project. You project.
Projection.
Yeah, you project.
As long as you can hold off from projecting your own issues onto them, then yeah, it's such a boon to be able to relate.
Well, this is also why it's very important that people who go into any kind of counseling work, social work like that, they need to be seeing someone themselves. If for nothing else than just so they can give an outside perspective if something does start to develop. But having someone that you can go talk to, just in case, and someone who you can check in with, whose job it is to be concerned about you and to make sure that you're okay, that's huge. And just because you're doing the job doesn't mean you don't need it also.
So when my wife was, we got married, or we started dating right after she had finished her internship as a counselor, which was she had finished schooling, did the internship, and then she got her degree. So the first few years, she still had to do what they called supervision. Yeah. And it was essentially, she had her own counselor, both to go over her own casework and for her own counseling.
Yeah, that's similar to what Michelle is working on for her internship, where she's got a person who's professionally managing her while she starts doing it, and that person can also be the counselor, but she has one through somebody else already.
Oh, okay.
I think it's actually a requirement here in the U.S. also that you can't be a counselor without also having a counselor of your own who's more experienced than you, that can help you make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would be scary. I agree, Jen. It's very complicated. You're right.
And you also have to be able to separate, because you're all in the same industry. And a lot of times you know each other, and you need to be able to not have a personal relationship with your personal counselor.
Personal relationships complicate the therapeutic relationship, which was that term I was looking for the last week when I was talking about the VA just wanting to dive right in without building up that specific type of relationship. No, therapeutic relationship.
Therapeutic relationship. Okay, yeah. Oh.
Wow. And yeah, so your mom is supervision, but then she has a separate counselor. Yeah, that's how my wife's will be. She has a separate counselor already, but then when she does her internship, and she might be able to do it through the school district, so she might actually be able to still keep working with the kids she's working with because she wants to work with kids like this.
That's what my ex-wife worked for the state. Because if you're a private counselor and you need supervision, you have to pay for it. You pay a supervisor to give you the mentorship work, but the state paid for that. So even though she made next to nothing money-wise, the amount of money that she saved on supervision was...
Yeah, I get that they have to be paid, but expecting the student to pay for that is rough, especially if it's part of a degree program.
Have a good day.
Marty Mac, thanks for joining us. We actually went a little long today, but that's okay. It just happens.
Well, no, Brian, this was after that she had her degree, the supervision.
Oh, so then this was beyond that? Yeah, see, my wife's, it's a part of her degree.
No, so there is that. There's multiple levels.
No, we're not.
To get the degree, you have to have an internship. There's a couple states that call the next part internship, but this is when you already have This is when you already have the degree, when you already have the license. You still have to work under someone.
Yeah, but I still say it's just a big racket to expect the people to pay.
Yeah.
No, but there's a reason we don't have enough. There's a reason we don't have enough counselors. It's because the requirements to get in. While I don't think that I think that they need to be strict. They need to be defined and well thought out, and to make sure that everybody who's walking in the door to do this stuff is qualified to do it. There are just these barriers that they throw up that I just don't think they think about that prevent people from doing it. So at one point, my wife was convinced that she was going to have to. At one point, my wife was convinced that she was going to have to pay for all of it. That the person that was going to do her supervision, that she was going to have to pay them, and it wasn't going to be a part of her degree program. And at that point, she seriously considered stopping, because if it was true, there was no way she was ever going to be able to afford it.
Yeah, and that was the part that she had to pay for, was after the degree, after she had the license. But even then, she took a job with the state, and the state provided it.
Yeah.
So much resistance when so many people are struggling in silence. Yeah. It's acceptance of the norm.
Again, let's be clear about something. They do this to protect people. They need to make sure that everyone that comes in to do this is capable of doing it. And I can tell you, there are roles out there where people can play the role of a counselor, and it is very obvious that they don't have the proper training. And in this case, I'm looking straight at pastors.
Oh.
What'd you think I was going to go to?
The guy who I first started seeing.
Oh no! In this case, I'm thinking about pastors. Because their interest in that situation is less about the mental health side of it, and it's more about the spiritual side of it. And they don't have the complete training. Some do, but most don't. And I'd say
it's not a legal requirement.
It's not a legal requirement at all. And so they're more concerned about the spiritual side of it.
Morning, Tiefer.
Morning. How's afternoon for us, morning for you. Oh, now it's making sense. You didn't know where I was going with that. Yeah, there are a lot of people who think that they're getting the help that they need
when they talk to their pastor. But what they don't realize is that the pastor doesn't have the training that they need to do that particular job, because that's not what their primary job is. Their primary job is to tend to their flock. It's a very, very different role. Afternoon is just the morning of this conversation. Oh, morning for... Okay, so welcome in. Good morning to this conversation. And actually that's a common response, because I don't think that they are as aware of how important of an issue it is. And this goes back to some of the things that we've been talking about the lack of understanding about these issues. They just don't know any better, because they think that, I still to this day, I'm in a very accepting church. This is a church who has a specific program. We are very open here. We have this is the church who, when everyone else is saying chase all the refugees away, they're the ones sending people to the camps to take care of them. When people say the people have to get out of the industry before we can take care of them, they're the ones. Yeah, I think I remember you mentioning something along that, maybe in private talk. A lot of these organizations will say, you want us to help you because you're in the industry? We'll get out of the industry and then we'll help you. Whereas this one, they'll say, no, they're not going to get out of the industry if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel that there's another option to provide for them. Anytime you can substitute the word fix for help, it's not help.
Yeah, it's not help. Exactly. And that's when you're mixing roles. You're mixing. Okay, so the mental side of you is different from the spiritual side of you. It's all connected. Whatever you want to call the spiritual side of you, it's all connected. But you can't just will certain things away. You can't just believe they will go away.
If a person wanted to try to change their behaviors to match their spiritual beliefs, then the two become connected.
But even then, I think they go about it wrong.
Still,
this is one thing that I think, again, I'll go back to what I said before about this particular church that we're in. They don't go down that road. They don't care if you've got a problem, before, you having the problem before they'll fix you. All they want to do is take care of you. And once they know you're taken care of, then they'll go and they'll go where you want to go. It's been very clear that they're very open about that, and it shows. I have never seen a more diverse group of people in terms of religious background. And then all of the people who come to it's a community center for help. They have so many things that they do. I've never seen that in one location, particularly a church with the background it has, which was Southern Baptist.
Oh, wow.
They have reinvented themselves over and over and over to with the goal being, we want to take care of people.
People, yeah.
Okay, it's tough, and a lot of them don't actually honestly know how to even approach that.
And it comes back to the ignorance thing.
Yeah, we've had to shut out parts of our family, but it's just because of how mean they are about, how close-minded they are about certain topics, and none of them are the ones that we're talking about right there. In this case, we're talking about taking care of people. Just, if you're not taking care of people, then you're wrong.
And it's infuriating. The part, I think, one of the things so I am not atheist. I'm not a believer, but I'm not atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy for some people to become atheists because of, we have an understanding of most of the major religions in the world. We have an understanding that some of the basic premises have things to do with bettering yourself, helping other people, things like that. The
golden rule is a very common one if you want to go down something that's very, very well known. The golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. That's a very common element in most faith systems.
And so when you have behaviors and actions and practices that aren't in line with that, it's enraging.
Can I stop you for just a second?
Yeah.
Don't say anything that you're going to regret, Jen. Especially not in a public chat.
And I will say, because this is how my best friend killed himself, he had a temper. It's when the emotions get super intense that we're gonna. Yeah, only if you're ready, only if you want to. And
only in a way that's actually therapeutic for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to judge.
If you're sharing just to share, then just be careful. But here's a better way to put it. If you can tell the story like it's a story that you're not currently connected to, like it's something that's very clearly in your past, you've dealt with it, and now you can just tell the story, then tell it. But if you can't, don't.
Like I have when the Me Too movement started gaining popularity, I shared that I have a Me Too story, but I have never shared publicly what it is, and I don't know if I'll ever get to a place where I can.
Not everybody gets there.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to. You don't have to be to the point where you have to share it. It's not realistic to expect that everyone would get there. I'm at a point where I can say, for me, the hashtag would be hashtag #MeToo times 4.
Yeah.
I could say that. I have been through therapy that in some ways exasperated some other things that I've been facing, but it helped me get to that point where I could say that. But again, I don't want to talk about it because to focus. The reason why I don't talk about it much on here is because I don't want to make the story about me.
Yeah.
If the topic comes up and it's helpful for other people, then I'll share it. But most of the time, I would rather just not talk about that side of it for right now. Not because I don't want, not because I can't or don't. I mean, it is kind of because I don't want to, but it's because I don't want to. I mean, it's my stream. I can talk about what I want. But I still see this as more of a community thing. And I don't want it to be about, I don't want to talk about that side of it unless it's actually what's going on in the community wants to talk about it. Yeah, it needs to be relevant.
Well, I mean, even if it's also relevant if you start feeling the need to talk about it personally, then it's relevant as well. But
yeah, but if I feel the need to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it with my wife first before I talk about it here.
That's smart. That's very smart.
Because it just that if I feel the need to talk about it, then I should be talking to her about it. If I feel that it's appropriate to talk about here, then I will talk about it here. Does that make sense? I just want to make sure I'm making sense here, that everyone.
Yep. So going to the funeral, that it seems like you're not doing it for him, doing it for her, but it doesn't get rid of.
Well, and that's
the feeling that you're at that funeral.
And we've talked about this before. Being expected to go to something like that, I don't know your situation, so I'm going to share a situation that I do know. There's someone who I'm related to. I'm not going to go any more detail into that. Who was abused by another family member, but no one in the family is willing to believe that.
Yeah. And then it becomes...
That person refuses to have any interaction with that family member and will not go to anything where there's a potential that family member will be there, but also will not interact with any family members who just won't or refuse to listen to her, kind of thing. So, and unfortunately, it has caused some rifts in the family, but it's all because of what I just said. They are focused on themselves, not realizing that, hey, it doesn't matter if I believe the story or not. This person clearly has something going on, and I need to respect that. And unfortunately, family is some of the last to do that. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. Yeah, I've shortly mentioned it. Again, it's just more to me. In this case, it's more a matter of just letting you know that when I say I understand, I do understand. I'm not just saying it because to say it.
It's expression of...
Okay, see, that's the right reason for going. Because you went because you felt that she didn't deserve your recusing yourself because of something else. That's a good reason to go. And frankly, if I'm being honest, I think that's a huge step going down that road. It doesn't mean you're ready to make it clear. It's not that you're ready to move on or anything like that, or let go or anything like that, but it does show that you were willing to look past that one part for another,
to
support your grandmother. And that was a huge step, Jen. So do not undersell that, what you were able to do there. That is, especially considering that you said you still struggle with a lot of this, being able to do that despite that is huge.
Yeah, it makes it in and of itself an accomplishment.
I can imagine if I... So remember how I was talking earlier about how doing certain things just absolutely takes it all out of me? And Cellist Mike talked about how what was it, the thing where you went under for a month? The veterans, the disability thing, the rating coming back.
Yeah. It was super positive.
I can imagine.
So having...
Ooh, and then you had to drive somebody else home? Wow.
That probably took a pretty decent amount of time to decompress from.
Yeah, I'm glad you're okay.
Sidelining your emotions for that long. When they're screaming to be in your face.
One of the standard things that happens after we go to church is my wife, but when we're on our way to the car, she actually asks me to do a self-check and to be really honest. If you have to think about it at all, then you're not okay to drive. So check yourself, are you okay to drive? And if I hesitate for even a moment, she says, you're not okay, I'm driving. So doing what you had to do after putting yourself in that position, that's huge, Jen. That is huge. So that's a big step that you took right there. And I want to make sure we don't undersell that. That was big for you. That was huge. For me, yeah. Okay, everybody, we're gonna take some breaths. Yeah, that was actually good because I could feel I was getting a little excited about the topic. So it's a good time to take a breath. Now I will share a story of my own. We're going to focus on me now, so we're not looking at anybody else. An equivalent for me was taking the time to file a report, actually reporting it. And I knew that reporting it was probably not going to have any immediate effect, but I also knew that by reporting it, if anybody else had reported, it would go into the system. It would support it, yeah. And it would support that. Yeah, kitties are great for that. And these are absolutely great. No, it probably won't. It probably won't, especially considering the previous topic. But that took an absolute. I was really exhausted after that. But I think it was important that. I think, if I'm really being honest, I think the therapy got me to the point where I was willing to do that, but the act of doing that was actually more therapeutic than the therapy. Does that make sense, Mike?
Yep.
I think that's a safe way of putting that. The therapy got me to the point where I could do that, where I was willing to do that, but the act of doing that, because since I took that step, I have not felt the need to do anything more down that road. I've got that sense of closure to that. So it's an interesting way of looking at it, because that therapy that I was doing, the EMDR, that is an absolute. It's a run through the ringer every single time. I don't know how I didn't kill myself driving home as often as I did after that. It was so bad.
My therapist used to tell me, he would ask me not to drive home sometimes and to just walk for a while, just walk around. Just, go grab a bite to eat or just something, but to go take a walk before I drove home.
Yeah, remember, I did nearly destroy 2 cars.
Oof.
That was when I accidentally put gas in my diesel. I had the wherewithal to remember not to start it, but I had that 600 euros out the door that I had to pay, and it got to the point where my daughter, whenever we went to get fuel, she would run out of the car and get to the pumps first and say, "Which one are you supposed to use?" And she'd make me check before she would let me pull it down. Okay, well, if I'm gonna keep the topic on me, so we're talking about me here. Right now, what I know of what happened was that my mom took me to the hospital to make sure that I was physically okay. But that was the extent of it. Part of that was a lack of education. A lack of access to resources. We were on a military base in the middle of nowhere of Europe. There wasn't a lot of access to resources at the time. And after that, it was just never really. I didn't want to talk about it, and they didn't want to talk about it. And frankly, it's just been. That's how the way it's been. So I can't necessarily say that I get the whole not wanting to talk about it, because my experience with it was they just didn't know what to do. There was just an extreme lack of awareness of, okay, this has happened. What do I need to do? And they did the one thing they knew, took me to a doctor. But after that,
Nothing.
It was difficult for them to know what to do. So I haven't experienced that specifically. But I'd say at this point, the only thing that comes close to that would be my family, extended family, not being as aware of how much my life has changed as a result of what happened a couple of years ago. But, and in just an apparent obliviousness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I will give my parents credit for that. They did do that much. They made sure that access was denied.
Yeah.
They did do that much. And they made a point of making sure that I knew when I was absolutely, completely safe. They made sure I knew when that person had been shipped out of country. That's how bad of a person he was. The Air Force revoked his sponsorship.
Nice.
And send him back to the States, even though his... What the... I just tossed all my bricks. What are we using? Is it just stone?
Correct.
Yeah. But that's all they knew what to do. That's all they knew what to do. They didn't... And I'm not going to go into the specific details right now.
But they responded. They tried to protect.
Honestly, it's just because we've talked about so much. I would talk about it, but we've talked about so much today. I don't want to. So maybe maybe next week we can talk about it. I can say, okay, next week I'm going to tell them, because we clearly have some audience members who have experienced this. We've both experienced it, and I don't mind talking about it. So maybe next week we'll say that's the topic. But Cellist Mike, I'm going to give you a very specific role, okay? Your role is strictly interviewer. You're not going to...
It's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard to separate myself that way.
But
because it's a topic that I have my own personal story for.
But here's the... I know, you didn't let me finish.
Okay.
But if you can't keep yourself separated to do that, then just don't do anything. Okay? It's going to be about me, not you.
Yeah, no. I am not ready to talk about that.
Okay, hold on. I got to catch up.
Story, I mean.
Well, the only reason I got to stop going there is because... well, maybe. That'll do it. But they actually did? Okay. So they did. So did they... So just to make sure I'm understanding, they didn't care about, but they really did. And Jen, before we do that here, how about you tell me in text your story on Discord, so we can talk about it there first. It's a little less public, a little easier for you to handle. I don't want you to share out here first. Let's save that for another day. And for next week, I'm just going to talk about my story, and you can listen. And I'm only going to talk about how it affected me. If you find some commonality in it, that's okay. But I will completely understand if you are silent. But I just don't want to go. I don't want to go into it today because I don't think I can give it the full treatment that it deserves. Since we already spent so much time talking about other things. Does that make sense? Yeah, we need a little. I think the topic needs a little bit more time. And this will honestly be the first time that I'll be telling this to an audience that's potentially this large.
Well, even that, an audience that's not close friends, family, or therapists.
Oh, my wife is already very, very, very aware that I don't have an issue telling this story. I've actually already looked into joining actual groups on the 1 in 5 website to talk to people there who aren't ready to talk yet. So when it comes to that side of it, that I mean, I will make sure that she's aware that I'm going to talk about it. But this, I feel nothing. I don't feel any tension. I don't feel any nervousness. Nothing about even talking about it. So we'll see how it comes on the day. But so yeah, DM me we'll keep that there for now. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to how to talk about it. So, but this, it's just like Cellist Mike said. He's not at a point where he can talk about that, but let's flip that. There's a topic that he can talk about that I can't yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's still super hard for me. When we talked about moral injury, it was
that's being able to talk about it doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah,
it just means for you that story is not currently ongoing. Yeah, you're right. I don't think it ever gets easier. I just think that over time with practice, you just that effect has a slight less. Each time you do it, it has a slight less of an effect on you. It still affects you because it's a
known difficulty that you know you can overcome and you can get through.
Yeah. Well, and that's the concept behind narrative therapy. From what I need to do some more research into it because I think I've been doing it with inadvertently with all my writing. But the idea, the broad idea behind narrative therapy is to tell your story without it triggering you, because it is a story now, and you have dealt with it enough that you understand how it works, and that you can tell your story and not feel like you're in the story still.
Yeah. And
it's something I've actually considered studying in more detail, if nothing else, than to do it here, because this particular medium is great for people in terms of to share stories, and what you do in the process of narrative therapy initially is something that everybody can do at the same time. Like you can all do the thing that you're supposed to do, because all it requires is, I think it's rope and a bowl of rocks. That's it. So, but that's a different. I need to research that. But that is honestly, looking up narrative therapy is what led me to accelerated resolution therapy. Which honestly,
a lot of my therapy had very similar aspects to narrative therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It was focused on sharing it and getting positive feedback from it.
Yeah.
And then just that being repetitive.
Well, and having a safe environment to do that, I think went a long way for you down that road.
And that's the whole point, is you do it in the safe environment until you're ready to do it in places that aren't traditionally safe.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, all therapy works towards that. All therapy, that's the goal, is to get you to the point where you're safe enough that being exposed to the story doesn't trigger you, put you back in that situation. I think that's the goal of all therapy. But not all therapy works for everybody. CBT did not work for me because I wasn't at a point where I could just turn my brain off to the stressors.
See, and it doesn't work for me because the whole concept is to reframe something, say, hey, you're thinking about it this way, but this is another way to think about it. And it's like, I do that in my day-to-day life about everything anyway, and so it doesn't work for me because I have already tried to do those things. Yeah.
Well, and actually, Jen, you kind of hit on one of the biggest stigmas that people who struggle with mental disorders, mental disabilities, mental difficulties, however you want to term it, is that people genuinely don't realize. Well, one, there's two things. One, they don't realize that there is actually a physiological element to it. Chemical change.
Chemistry has changed.
Chemical change to your brain. And the ironic thing is the same people completely understand how drugs can do that. How you can have a physiological change to your brain because you did drugs, but when you try to talk to them about how traumatic events can alter your brain, they don't get it. Like at all. And this is nothing new. We've known about how this can happen since the Greatest Generation. They just didn't know they just didn't fully understand it.
Shell shock.
Yeah. For me, remember, Jen, for me, I didn't experience anything like physically traumatic. I wasn't exposed to combat like Cellist Mike was. So for me, it was a very different thing, but it still had a similar result. My brain chemistry altered because of what I was being subjected to. And it's just, I've always found that ironic that people who understand how doing drugs. Okay, let's look at my family for a second, because this is something I can talk about. My mom's brother, I think it's her, he was her second youngest brother, committed suicide while we lived in Germany. So I was 10 or 11 years old when this happened. She had to go back for the funeral. But they all knew that there was something wrong with him. He wasn't the same person anymore. They all knew. They understood that the drugs had changed him, and he wasn't the same person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
On my wife's side, her grandfather got electrocuted. He was on top of a blimp hanger, and somebody had done, I can't remember what the exact specifics, but somebody had done something wrong, and he, as a result, he had way too much electricity pumped through his brain, and he was in the hospital for months, and he was never the same again. He has never been the same, and end up walking out on his family.
So they understand the concept.
They understand the concept, because but in those cases like that, there was drugs, there was electricity, shell shock, actual combat. There was, you were exposed to injury, all kinds of stuff. They get how that can affect you and potentially change your brain. Also, I'd still say there's some lack of awareness of how much it can change physically to just being exposed to danger.
Well, it's no different. I was going to say it's things that all it takes is something that triggers our flight or fright or what is it? Fight or flight response? Fight, flight, freeze.
Fight, flight, freeze.
If it gets triggered hard enough, because that response is part of our brain. If it gets triggered hard enough, for some people, it will just stay on.
Yeah, it won't go off. So it just surprises me how many people still don't get that it can physiologically change you, just like drugs, just like you were talking about right there. Can I repeat the thing about secrets?
Yeah.
Which?
About keeping other people's secrets.
Oh yeah, that's
not telling other stories.
Yeah, just because someone has shared a secret with you does not mean that you are allowed to share it with somebody else. It is their secret to tell. And you not sharing that secret is not you keeping something from somebody who you're supposed to be able to tell everything to, okay? We professionally had to do that. Exactly, it's not lying, it's not sharing something that you are not allowed to share. My wife and everybody in my life knew that there were things information that I was privy to that I was never allowed to talk about and will never be allowed to talk about. But me not telling them, it's not me, I'm not lying, I just can't talk about it. It's not my secret to share. But we had the benefit of it being our profession. When it's not your profession, but somebody comes and tells you, hey, I can't tell anybody else this, but I know I can tell you because I know your story or I trust you or whatever. I was abused.
It's like I want or need to tell somebody.
Yeah, I know. I want or need to tell somebody. I'm going to tell somebody, and I want you to know that I was abused. But I don't want you to tell anybody else. You become that person's secret keeper.
I never actually shared my abuse story with therapists because the state in which it happened, there is no statute of limitations.
Okay.
So unless I'm prepared for the state to pursue charges, I can't share it with a therapist because they have legal responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and the place where you most see this trampled on is in TV, because it's just easier to create fake drama by building up, the lack of communication thing. I mean, honestly, if people just talk to each other in TV shows, we would never have any drama. When it comes down to it, because they don't actually deal with, okay, just because you can talk about something doesn't mean you're going to talk about it the right way. That's a whole different kind of drama. No, it's okay. That's fine. And we'll remember there's the VOD. Obviously, this is a long one, but there's a VOD. But yeah, for the sake of the person listening, not every secret that you are privy to is your secret to share. Now, this is a long one, yeah. But not every secret that you're privy to is your secret to share. If you ever have been trusted with someone else's secret, then you not saying it is not hiding something. It's showing that you have integrity. But on the flip side, you need to be honest about that and say, look, I know that you know that I know something, so I'm going to tell you the truth. I do. But here's the other side of the truth. I'm not allowed to talk about it because it's not my secret to share. And until that person tells you, I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
And the place where we see this played out the most in a safe form for where we can talk about this whole thing about secret keeping in a safe form, frankly, is superhero shows.
There you go. Yeah.
It's not there. Like if a superhero wants to keep their identity secret and they don't want anybody else to know for lots of reasons, but generally it's I don't want my friends and family to be put in danger, then just because you know and someone close to your life is someone who you normally tell all secrets to is there, that doesn't mean it's your secret to share. But I mean, everybody's seen some form of a superhero show, so they get that one. So that one's an easy one to share.
Yeah.
Okay, so thought that was the main message of what we talked about before. That's the thing. You can tell them you do know, but you cannot talk about it. Yeah, being honest to tell them that you do know something, but you're not allowed to share because you've been told not to tell anybody, and that it's not. And then some responses would be, it doesn't matter. You should have told me anyway. You should have trusted me. It's like, look, I trust you, but this person doesn't. Your issue is with them, not me. If you have an issue with me not being able to tell you, you need to take it up with this person and not be mad at me because I told you what I was allowed to tell you. I know something and you need to go talk to them if you want to know. But even the whole, how many times have we heard it in a TV show? I was just trying to keep you safe by not telling you. Well, I mean, yeah, it could be. I mean, if you hear something randomly, I mean, that you're skirting a gray line there about it. I mean, it can be, but it's not your decision. But what I would say in that situation is if you find out something like that, you should go to the person and say, hey, I found out this secret. Now, I need to know what you want to do with it. Just because you hear something publicly does not mean you're allowed to spread it further.
There are times where it's not necessarily so simple. Sometimes there's going to be more of a conflict within your own sense of ethics, and that comes into, back to like the professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Professionals have a legal obligation to report things that of certain crimes.
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's be very clear about this. There are some things it doesn't matter that you haven't been given permission to share it. If it's mandatory reporters, good example. Mandatory reporters. There are some people who, if you tell them, they do not have a choice but to tell. I am a chaplain assistant part-time with the reserves. If you tell a chaplain or a chaplain assistant something, we actually are not required to report it, which is a point that drives
the military crazy, I'm sure.
No, not that. The people who do the investigating.
Oh, in the Air Force, it's OSI.
OSI.
In the Army, it's CID.
The OSI actually went so far as to throw a chaplain in the brig because he would not tell them information that they thought was theirs to know, right to know, because it was actually, he did know something that would have been incriminating. And they went so far as to put him in jail because he would not tell. And eventually, and it took somebody higher up finally intervening, saying, no, you can't do that. I mean, so someone like that, and by virtue of being the other side of their the religious support team, we wouldn't be allowed to tell, like straight up tell. But somebody else in the chain of command, no choice, they must report it. Someone who's a counselor, a teacher, an administrator in a school, they are required to tell. Anybody else who works in a chapel who's not a chaplain or a chaplain assistant, just as an example, would be required to tell. And inside church organizations, I think the only person who has the same level of protection is the pastor itself. Because confession, that's it. No one else has that protection.
But there are, I don't know. I think if you look at the controversy surrounding the Catholic Church right now with all of the
Oh, that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, I guess it is, because it's not so much them keeping somebody else's secret, it's them covering up behavior.
Yeah, they were covering up behavior because, you know, that's a whole different topic. In this case, we're just talking about the idea of sometimes it is the right thing to do to not say anything, but there are occasions. I just wanted to make sure we made it clear. We're not saying that it's never okay. We're not saying it's never okay to share. It's just there are occasions where it's very clear you shouldn't share, and other occasions where you don't have a choice. You have to share.
So I'll take it down a notch in intensity to give an example of when I should have shared and I didn't. But less intense, same concept. I was dating a girl, and she wanted to go to her best friend's wedding that was in a state over, and I had never met this friend because, you know, it wasn't local. I never met this friend. I'd never met the guy she was marrying. But because I was a guy present, you know, with the wedding party or whatever, because the girl I was dating was a maid of honor or a bridesmaid or some such like that.
Yeah. So you were privy to to know, going and attending and seeing what happened.
Exactly. And so I was also, because I wasn't just attending, I was, you know, with one of the people part of it.
The official party.
I was invited to go to the bride, the groom's, what is that thing that before you get married, the people party?
I can't think of it right now either. What the heck? Bachelor party. Bachelor party.
Yeah, so I was invited to go to the bachelor party, so I did. And the wife to be, the bride, said, you know, you can do anything but no strip clubs. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I don't care. I don't have any particular interest in strip clubs. And so we went to go see a comedian. And then the other guys who did know each other or were friends were all like, oh, we're going to go to a strip club. I want to go to a strip club. And I was like, dude, I don't want to go to a strip club. But I had no real say in it. And I mean, I could have said, I'm not going to a strip club, but I also don't necessarily, you know, I am not opposed to being at a strip club. I don't boycott their existence. I just don't care for them.
Yeah.
And so I argued against it. I actually fought it a little bit. I was like, no, we shouldn't go. You said you weren't going to go. I don't want to go.
So this is a matter of you put your word down that you wouldn't do this. This is a matter of integrity now.
But I didn't fight it. I fought it, but I didn't really fight it. You know, I could have not gone altogether. But that's irrelevant to the story. The part of the story that matters is they tried to cover it up, and they wanted to cover it up. And in my head, you know, I had this conflict of, it's not my story to share. You know, I am not associated. I'm not directly associated with the... Oh, integrity is behaving in a way that matches what you know to be right. So it's don't just say that you want to do what's right, do what's right, but the way that you understand right to be.
Here, we can't find it any better than this. There you go. That's the definition. The quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. So again, I go back to the whole, is it your secret to share? If it's not your secret to share, but you at least, in the face of it, the person says, but do you know something? You can say, yes, I do, but I can't tell you because it's not my secret to share. At that point, you've been honest with them, and you've stuck by the principle of, I can't talk about this, and this is why. You need to go talk to this person. So anyway, back to your story.
But so they decided to do it, and that they weren't going to say anything, and that they were going to lie. And in my head, again, it was, I don't know these people. It's not my business. So I am not going to get part of it. But the girl I was dating confronted me and wanted me to say whether it happened or not. And so I was conflicted because it's not my business, it's not my story, and it would have, in my mind, massive repercussions, like their marriage wouldn't happen. And I did not want to be into that position in the slightest. And I knew that if I said anything, if I were to share what they were keeping secret, I would potentially, well, I mean, they were compromising the marriage, but I would be party to how it all played out. And so I chose to lie, which was the wrong choice because that damaged my personal relationship.
It's a tough situation. It really is a tough situation. I suppose the best you could say is, look, I know what happened, but you need to go talk to them because this is not, it's not my secret to share. You need to talk to them.
Yeah. And quiet is really just confirming. It's being honest. It's truth. You know, it gives them that answer, but
yeah, but that people do confuse what it means, the difference between telling the truth and lying. Telling them that you know something, but that you're not allowed to talk about it because it's not your place, is still telling the truth.
Yeah.
You may not, in that case, you haven't confirmed it, but you've said because you want to have integrity with this person who you do have a relationship with. Look, I can't tell you anything because it's not my secret to share. You need to go talk to them. At that point, you haven't confirmed that anything has happened, but you've told them, don't ask me, ask them.
Yeah, and then, again,
it's not an enviable position.
First, but yeah, it was bad. And I should have, after being pressed, I should have just said, listen, I don't want to be a part of this. I am part of it. So this is it.
Well, and here's another layer to this thing. Clearly, if the person asked you, they knew that person was likely to have broken that promise. Yeah. There was a whole different relationship dynamic going on there. My wife knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that when it came time to do my bachelor party, I was not going to go anywhere near anything like that. For one thing, we didn't live in a place that had them.
Like, it's not something...
It doesn't mean I couldn't...
It really bothered me because it created a situation where my personal relationship was being impacted in a way that would never exist with the people I chose to be around.
Yeah. No, and it was an unfair position to put you in by both sides. Both sides basically set you up for that. She wants you to repeat what you just said.
It impacted because if I was dating a girl that didn't like the idea of me going to strip clubs, I would have no trouble with that. So in my personal relationships, I would never be in a position where I was in a strip club
and would have to lie about it.
That I might have to lie about or try to hide or cover up. But so I was in a position that damaged my relationship in a way that would never have happened if I were just with the people I chose to be around.
But is it clear? Is it clear as mud now?
Oh, no. I would. So I don't have anything against strip clubs, but I also don't. It's more of I don't care about strip clubs. I don't go to strip clubs, but it's not because I don't think that girls are attractive. It's that I just have no interest in strip clubs. So I wouldn't be going to strip clubs. The girl I was dating,
he also has no interest in casinos.
Oh, I like casinos. I actually enjoy gambling.
I'm just giving it. There's another example of entertainment that someone could just be like, look, I don't care about them. I really honestly don't care.
Yeah.
But people might have opinions about.
Yeah, if a girl said, well, there are things that I am not disciplined about. There are definitely things that if somebody were to say, you can't do that, or we break up, then we would break up. But strip clubs aren't one of them. Gambling I enjoy, and I would be irritated if somebody had a problem with that, but...
And in this bit... What was it?
Gambling's not an addiction for me.
It's fine. Again, here's this. Let's take a step back a moment to look at the situation that Charles Mike was kind enough to give us. The situation that he was put in was you had two people who clearly didn't have enough respect for each other to be honest, to make a promise and stick to it. They had a problem in their relationship, and it was not something that was relatively secret, because this other person who was Mike's connection to this entire group straight up asked him. They came to him and said, "They did it, didn't they? They did it, didn't they?" Put him in a position that he should never have been in. The people themselves, so the bride and the groom, clearly didn't trust each other. He didn't respect her, she didn't trust him, because if he respected her, he wouldn't have gone to the strip club anyway. And if she trusted him, she wouldn't have had to worry about it. Right? Yeah. So there was something else going on. There was a dynamic in that relationship that they dragged Charles Mike into by proxy. The friend, the other person in the party, dragged him in. Because if you come down to it, the dishonesty started with the promise not to go. I would say that's where it definitely started. The distrust started with them saying, like she said, "I don't care what you do," but then she gave them a caveat, so because she clearly knew that was the potential of what was going to happen.
Yeah. What I should have said was to the girl I was dating, because everybody else shouldn't have mattered to me. I should have said, yes, they did. I didn't like being put into that situation. I never want to be put in that situation again. And I don't really want to hang out with them.
Actually, I would have opened with that. Because it's hindsight's 2020, so we're looking back on it. I would have opened with that. I would have just straight up said, "Look, you are putting me in a position that I don't want to be in. You're asking me to do something that I'm uncomfortable with, regardless of what the answer is." But the thing is, by saying that, you're basically saying, yes, something happened, I just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, it's like, I'm pissed that this happened.
Yeah, I shouldn't be in this situation. You guys put me in this situation, so please keep me out of it. Like, just leave me out of this. This is clearly a problem between all of you. You guys need to work it out. I am simply the plus one. I am plus one. Leave me alone. I have no role in this.
Oh.
My Mr. Guest, this guy right here. Tell us, Mike. Is that who we're talking about? Well, I mean, he really was the third wheel in this, but he was a pawn. If you think about it, he was a pawn. I'm not going to go so far as to say that they planned it. They brought him along to seed him, to intentionally see if this was going to happen. But I'm going to say that the situation presented itself, and the girlfriend in his part, the other member of the bridal party, realized or knew enough to know that this guy, that he wasn't telling the truth, that he was going to go back on that, and then tried to use her relationship with Mike to get the truth. So she put him in a position that was unfair.
That's true.
And so the best answer at that point is, look, I don't know what's going on here. Clearly there are some dynamics that I'm not aware of. You guys need to talk to each other.
That's what I should have. Yeah.
But again, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is clearly one of those relationships that wasn't set on a good foundation to start with.
Oh my, yeah.
Sounds like a DLI marriage. They're just getting married to get out of the living in the dorms.
See, so if I start making friends with somebody and I discover that that's their sort of behavior, I limit my time with them. I don't let myself be put in those situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's an anecdotal kind of chuckle-worthy scenario, but
we won't go anywhere. We're still here.
Day, yeah, you can be honest about secrets without sharing the secret.
Yeah, that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize, and I frankly blame society for that. Society has made it very, through TV and other things out that if you don't tell somebody the truth, then you clearly don't care for them, not realizing that sometimes it's not your secret to tell. But and they never hit upon that third option of. They always say it's black and white. You're either with me or against me. You tell me the truth or you're lying. And they never actually go to that third option of, I know you want to know the truth, and you need to go talk to this person if you want the truth.
Yeah.
Because this is not my secret. I know something, but clearly there's something else going on here, and you need to go talk to them. And again, the best example I can give is superhero shows.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly the ones on CW, because they try to mix in all the CW fake drama that they can to play to their audience.
How direct of a question to ask? However direct is comfortable for you.
Are you talking to him or me? Because if you're talking to him, the answer is he didn't tell them that they actually went to the strip club.
Yeah. So I was directly asked about it. I was asked, did you guys go to the strip club? Yeah. And it was I made the mistake of.
It's a difficult. Let's caveat that it's a difficult situation that they put him in. So go on.
Yeah, it was my choice to say no and to lie. That's what I regret. Well, I mean, I don't actually think much of it. The answer was yeah.
You just if you'd had it to go do over again, you would have done something different.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if it was a matter of the girl I was dating not liking strip clubs, I just wouldn't have gone.
Yeah,
and it would have been irrelevant.
Yeah. Now, just to give you an example, a counter, because remember I was talking earlier about this type of relationship clearly had some issues. As I said, my wife didn't worry about me going to a strip club, in part because honestly to this point I don't think there were anywhere we lived. It didn't mean there weren't strippers that you could hire, but I don't think the thought didn't even occur to me. And you want to know what my strip club in your thing. There was a lot more problems than just a strip club issue. Yes, it was. Yeah. She didn't trust him, and he didn't respect her because he told her something that he knew he wasn't going to keep. If given the opportunity, he knew he would choose to go, and she clearly didn't really trust him because maybe she was naive and did. Okay, maybe she was naive and did trust him, and this friend who was dating Mike was trying to protect her. But that's a whole different topic. We're just going to assume that she just didn't trust him, which is why she said, don't go to a strip club.
Yeah, now, it wouldn't have been an issue if she didn't think it was going to be an issue.
Exactly. She clearly thought it was going to be an issue. Let's get that out there. The bride-to-be, the fiance, clearly thought, I need to say this, because if I don't say this, his friends will take him there, and he won't say no.
But the funny part, yeah, it was doomed to begin with. The funny part to me is that if you're in a position where you feel like you have to say it, you saying something won't make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to go if they're going to go. Now, but see, again, it could be that she just knew his friends were a bad influence on him, and that while he was improving himself, being around his friends was not good for him. It's possible that was the situation.
They were a good fit because they were both like that.
Yeah. So anyway, just so we're clear on this, anyone want to guess what I did for my you heard club? Welcome in, Captain Oz.
Oh no, clubs. I like clubs. I like dancing. I love to dance. I don't go out anymore because I'm getting too old for it.
I honestly just I've never seen the point of dance clubs. It's loud. People are, and let's be realistic here. Dance clubs are not how they are depicted on TV. They aren't. They're not. They can somewhat be like that, but my experience with parties and clubs like that, it's always the ideal version, and rarely ever are you in the ideal club.
I've been to a lot of different kinds of clubs, and so I don't know what to say about that reference. I don't find the environment to be appealing.
not just appealing. It's not fun. It doesn't appeal to me in any way. I don't like the taste of alcohol. I don't like the effect that it has, even slightly buzz. So why would I go to a club like that? I don't like to dance.
What about the dance parties at DragonCon? You go to those sometimes.
No. I go.
I guess you work.
I worked them.
Okay,
I worked
that's
them.
fair enough.
I don't go for the party. I go because it's a way to work with people who I otherwise wouldn't get to work with.
Hey, Captain Oz.
And welcome in.
Oh, yeah, but
so anyone want to guess what I did for my? Anyone want to guess what I did for my bachelor party? Yep.
I did too.
I went to a church, our church, and I projected. We hooked up the projector, hooked up a Nintendo 64 and a PlayStation and some other things up to this projector, connected it into the sound system, and we played games. And I had more youth group members attending than I had actual friends.
So parties, plan right now from the beginning. Planning out. What are you going to do when you need to take a break? When you need to go have some time alone? Are you going to go outside? What are you going to say? Are you going to say, hey, I need to go outside for a minute? Are you going to go to the bathroom? Because that's one that I've done before is, say I need to go to the bathroom when you don't, and just go so you can have some quiet time. Have somebody that you plan on being able to text message. Just ways, try to identify ways that you can go, but have pre-arranged safe environments you can grab when you need it.
Okay, Jen, I'm going to share something with you that you're going to hate from the get-go because it's the easiest way to get them. This is one of the things that I use to go to those parties that he was talking about at DragonCon. I have a set of those, and I wore them the entire time I was in Disney World also, and there are times when I wear them to my church. They drastically reduce... No, go look at the object. You can, since you are morally opposed to Amazon, that's fine.
You can find the same.
You can probably find them another way, but I'm gonna leave.
Oh.
Okay. That you are gonna be more alone in your head, but let's make something. But I want to make sure it's clear. These are not earplugs. You can still hear everything that's going on around you.
It's just quieter.
What they do is they cut out the really high, loud noises. So you could be standing, and I've done this. You could be standing right in front of speakers that are the size of you, stacked 3 wide and 2 high. So we're talking six speakers, and it will just sound like normal music to you. And anyone talking to you will sound like normal conversation. So it's not necessarily going to reduce all sound. It's going to cut out the really loud noises.
Okay.
So you're not going to be completely... You're still going to have full access to your hearing. It's just those really loud highs are going to be gone. And they'll still be there, but they will be drastically reduced. And all the other sound will sound normal. They can be turned into full earplugs if you close those things off. But with them open, all they do is just reduce those really loud highs. And it was night and day between those parties that I would go volunteer at, having those things on. They were so effective that the guy who ran that party actually came to me like 3 years after I started using him and asked, "Where did you get those? Because clearly you're able to do things that I can't do because it's so loud down there." So that's why I shared them. So while being alone in your head is another difficulty that you have to face, I just want to make sure it's clear. It's not going to be silent. It's just going to, those really loud highs are just going to be drastically reduced. So everything it's going to sound like you're just listening to a speaker. Like you're at a party and the noise level, instead of being so overwhelming that you can't hear anything except the music and people screaming, you're just going to hear the music at what would be a normal level, and all the people screaming are going to sound like they're talking at a normal level. And you could be right next to them. No, don't try it first in a party. Try it someplace else. So let's say, yeah, try. I don't know. Do you live near a train station, where you might hear where you can position yourself near the track as the train goes by? Because that's a relatively loud sound, especially if it toots its horn. Go get them and try them on there. See the difference in that sound as it goes by. If you live near an airport, go listen to the planes as they take off, and then put those in and listen to the difference in them. You'll still hear them. It's just the really overwhelming loud highs are going to be cut out, so you'll be able to handle them. They're not an Amazon specific thing. Amazon is just the ones that they're the ones that I knew I could find them on there because I'd ordered them from there before. We've actually looked into getting a pair for my wife and a pair for my daughter because they're that effective. So, but yeah, that whole being alone in your head, yeah, that's not a nice thing to have to deal with. So when you're thinking about them, I just wanted to make sure I made it clear. It is not a complete wipeout of sound. You are still going to be able to hear things and have normal conversations with people, which, that's a whole different problem.
Yeah, to me, that's the part that, because the sound isn't, I don't really have, well, my stuff with sound is very different, but the people, the people part of it is what is hardest for me.
No, I did not. Sorry, wife's messaging me. It's the sound and the people. Yeah, it's two different things. It really is. It's two different things. But in terms of a management tool, I consider those to be a very key part of how I manage dealing with the loud noises of being around a crowd, if not necessarily the crowd itself.
Part of your survival kit.
Yeah, well, I can say I've been to Dragon Con since this has started, and I went last year, and I went in 2017 also, and it wasn't as overwhelming as it could have been. In the spring, I went to a one where I sold my books, and that place was really loud. I mean, it was so loud that the things would thump on the floor and were spooking my dog because he wasn't used to being around a place that would do that. But I had those things in, and they didn't affect me nearly as much.
So what you might be able to do is, so freak out regardless. That's kind of what I was thinking, is the expectation that might happen. Plan out now, what can you do to create a safe space for yourself? Is it run to a bathroom? Is there somebody that's going to be there that you can today say, hey, I might have a panic attack. If I come tell you this thing, X whatever code word or something, can we go step aside and just talk? Whatever a safe space looks like for you, try to find a way that you can plan out now to be able to go do if you start panicking. So it's the understanding that you can and would panic. Mirrors, that works too. So a bathroom, if there's a mirror, plan out, say, if and or when I start panicking, I am going to go into the bathroom and use the mirror, and expect somebody might be in the bathroom. So be able to be ready and say, I'm going to stand here and wait. And these are the things I'm going to tell myself while I'm waiting for the bathroom, and then go to the bathroom and use the mirror.
Having a plan is a huge step in making sure that you take care of yourself. And it's just another aspect of, most people can just go out the door and go to the store and not have to think about how do I need to protect myself? How do I take care of myself? They don't have to think about it. That's great for them. Great for them. Wish it was that way for me, but it's not. There are so many different steps I have to take. It's the new norm. So having a plan to take care of yourself. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? How are you going to center yourself? How are you going to ground yourself? What's your, I hate to put it this way, but what's your safe word? What is it that you need to be able to communicate to the people you're with to say, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. If other people are involved at all. You may not have other people like that involved, but if you do, you should be able to tell them, okay, say this, and they'll know we're done. We got to get her out of here.
And how do you get home if it's just overwhelming? You have to go.
Yeah, if you have to leave, but you're not physically capable of getting yourself home, do you have a backup plan for that?
Yes. Do you have somebody that can come pick you up? Do you have your card where you can call like an Uber or a Lyft or something?
I don't think they have that where she lives.
Share companies. Well, Uber is international.
Not as international as you think. You walk.
A taxi cab, a walk.
And that's a good grounding thing. But you're right. That is a good grounding thing. Uber is illegal in Germany.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. The taxi unions there are very strong. So if you have do you have taxis available to you? Is there public transit available? But it sounds like this place isn't that far from where you live.
Mm-hmm.
So does your plan account for you being able to walk home? Are you going to be able to handle walking home?
If you're panicking or...
Yeah, these are all those things that most people just don't think about. Yeah,
so...
but here's the thing. They can't wrap their brains around it for people that have some kind of issue with anxiety or some other mental disorder that they're facing, but they all understand what it means to plan in case you're drunk and can't get home. So everybody knows the concept. They're just, I would say oblivious. They're just oblivious to how it applies in other things. But they all know the concept because they all do it. They all plan, how am I going to get home if I'm inebriated and incapable of getting myself home?
Where I live, if I were to go somewhere downtown, about an hour's walk away from where I live, as a 6'2", 280-pound guy, I wouldn't be safe walking home.
And by the way, I was using that as an example of how people who don't necessarily struggle with mental disorders, who wouldn't understand what a panic or an anxiety, how trying to plan for a panic and anxiety attack, they wouldn't necessarily understand that. But if you explain to them, this is just like you having a plan in case you get too drunk to drive home, they all understand the concept. They just don't. It hasn't been. I guess it just hasn't been given to them in a form that they can wrap their brains around.
Yeah.
But that is very
much.
It's
never occurred to them that that somebody might need a plan for situation A or situation because they don't.
So, and it's just,
it's an out. Yeah.
We shouldn't have to explain to ignorant people, but unfortunately we do. So for those of you who may have someone like this in your life, realize this is the same concept as you go out and get yourself drunk and need to have someone come and rescue you or get you home, have an alternative plan. This is exactly the same thing. It is no different.
Yeah. Well, I am going to need to get off.
I'm actually I was going to wrap it up at 4 because
mentally and emotionally
You done? You done, man?
I'm done.
Are you done? Okay, everybody say goodbye, Chalice Mike. So,
I'm sorry.
We'll see you next week.
No, you're okay. If I need, I'd go in when I need to go. You did not keep me here longer than I could handle, so no, we're good.
He chose to stay. We chose to keep going.
Yeah.
We could have stopped. Yep. We chose to keep going.
Bye, everybody.
He has no problem whatsoever just sending me a message and walking away.
Yeah.
So
no, I will. I've definitely learned to.
Heck, he already did that. Remember when I said earlier, "Oh, I think he walked away." Yep, he did.
And right before that, I said I farted on stream.
And nobody heard that. Nobody heard that.
Enough to make stream. I'll bet you if we go back to that time frame, we could probably find it.
I don't even remember what time it was.
It was at 12:31 Eastern time. Shh, nobody heard it.
I wasn't streaming at 12:31 Eastern time.
2:31.
2:31. So 2:31 Eastern. So an hour and a half.
Let's go, yeah.
So an hour and a half into the stream.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Yep, we'll see you next time, Mike. Go take care of yourself. All right, so he's ducked out. Let me turn that off so if he suddenly comes back in, it's not too loud. I'm botsing you. No, it's Well, that's just the chat translator. It thinks you're speaking another language, so it's trying to translate it. That's another fluffy invention. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it here. Thanks everybody. This was a long one. We don't normally go this long, and next week I'm probably going to make sure I think I'm going to stick to the 3-hour rule. That if we go long, we still don't go longer than 3 hours, because this is tiring, and we all have other things we need to be doing too. So, but I don't mind it. If it goes long, it goes long. It happens. Honestly, I didn't even realize we'd gone long until 40 minutes past 2 o'clock. And at that point, I just like, well, fine, we went long. So, but thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for listening, and thanks for helping us talk about these things. Okay, we're gonna try this. Hey, it worked. It let me go straight to there. So, and I got a donation. I didn't see an alert on it, but that's okay. Thanks, iKillOmega, for the donation. We are well past halfway. We're creeping our way up there, slowly but surely. We still have about 6 weeks, I think, until the main event. So thank you for that donation. Good night to yourself. Go try to get some sleep. Remember, take some time to center yourself. Go take a shower, squeeze a cat, eat some chocolate, whatever works for you. And I will see you guys. I will be back on this channel. I may do a writing stream tomorrow morning. It just depends on how I feel. And I will be back Wednesday night. Plan is I'll be Wednesday night. Well, I'm playing some more Levelhead. Oh. And I should probably find someone to host. I mean, just the polite thing to do, right? I never expect anybody to be at my stream. It's fine. The only person who I ever expect to be at my stream is on Monday. I expect Cellist Mike to be here, and even then, I expect that sometimes he won't be able to. I like to know that there are some people who like to come hang out, who like to participate. That's nice, but I never expect it. Time is a very, very valuable commodity, and I'm very glad that you chose to spend it with me. All right, so I think this. I was gonna go host the Extra Life channel, but I think he's about done. Instead, I'm gonna host Spartan Stew. He's Captain Oz shared one of his. Used one of his emotes earlier. He looks like he's playing. Yep, playing more Rimworld. If you don't like chaos and tragedy and random things happening to pawns that make them unusable, don't watch, because Spartan Stew's MO is he will go. Everything that happens will be glorious, whether it's a success or failure, and it will always be exciting. So I can't sell his lead up any better than that. So I'm gonna give him a shout out. His favorite way, if this tells you anything, his favorite way to start, his favorite setup for starting is the actual crash landing one, where you can get anywhere from 6 to 18 pawns, and most of them will probably die before you can get out of the first part of the game. And it's just chaos pandemonium. So I'm going to host him, and I will be back. I will see you guys on probably Wednesday for sure. And we'll be back next week. I'll make sure I announce the topic so that we can, get some viewers for it. And I will talk to you all throughout the week. Bye. I guess I should switch back to that. Bye.